This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Well, good morning and welcome to our sunrise safari. Yes, I know it is a surprise that I am on drive once again. I know I said yesterday that I was not going to be out this morning, but due to a few unforeseen circumstances with Sydney, he has had to go home for a few days. I am, well, on drive this morning, so you will be with me and stuck with me for most of the morning. And it's a good start. We've at least got the prey animals for Hosanna and Co, so we'll hopefully find one of them at some point. Now, my name is Tristan. On camera, I've got David this morning, and it is a beautiful, beautiful morning. There's a little breeze that is blowing at the moment. It really is a beautiful kind of day. It looks like that there's not going to be too many clouds that are going to be around, and so hopefully we should have a beautiful kind of day. You can see there's not much color yet in the sky. It's still quite dark at this time of the day, so David's changing between infrared and normal color, so not too much light coming through just yet. It will come up just now, but I'm surprised that it's the sort of temperature and what the sky looks like this morning. Yesterday evening it was searingly warm and it had this hot berg wind blowing, and generally that's followed by a cold front and this colder wind that blows, and this morning is a lot more chilly than it was yesterday, but there are no clouds, which I'm quite surprised about. I thought there should have been some clouds, but there is a bit of a breeze blowing, so maybe they'll arrive during the course of today. Now, I was saying that the plan is going to be to try and see if we can find Hosanna and friends, which is basically Thandi, Tlalamba, Tingana, any of them. The lions I heard roaring are very far away. They're not on Duma at the moment, so I don't think we'll have too much luck with them, but we'll have a little look around. We're going to just do pretty much bumble about. Now, we need all of you to ask lots and lots of questions, because I'll tell you why. The Mara this morning are going to be having the day off, so Brent and Jamie are going to have a day's rest, and so it's going to be just me until such time as there is enough sunlight for James Henry to join me on a walk. And so you have to ask lots of questions to keep me busy this morning, because it's going to be a good half an hour of just me. Hopefully you guys will be able to deal with that. And if you do have questions and you do have comments, remember hashtag SafariLive on Twitter or the YouTube chat stream if you do want to get hold of us and help me out for the morning. Now, it is going to be, I think, now, Rusty, don't you start now as well. Andrew, you're saying holding thumbs for Thandi and Tlalamba? Yeah, I think that would be a nice one to find. Well, personally would like to see them again. They always a firm favourite with all of us. Little Tlalamba has gotten into the hearts of many over the last, what's that there? Just saw all the impalas kind of stare off this direction. Now, of course, if Rusty would just get into reverse, that would help. I'm just going to try and reverse, but I just saw some eyes through here that I want to just double check. So, Carol, we most certainly can bumble past Janet Jackson's tree. It's some more impalas by the looks of things, or wildebeest. It's a male wildebeest that is walking in that area. So we will definitely go past Janet Jackson's. My plan is actually to head southwards. I want to go check Treehouse Dam, see if there's any sign of Tingana coming back from last night. I know he went south into Little Gowrie, and then from there I want to head towards Twin Dams, and like I said, I'm just going to take a general bumble about the place. I don't really have a specific plan this morning. We had a lovely sighting of Hosanna last night, so you know, if I don't see him, I've at least got to spend a really nice drive with him the day before I left, so I'm quite happy if I don't find him this morning. I sometimes think it's nice for him to have a bit of a break from us. He must be tired of hearing our waffling on and carrying on next to him after the last few weeks. Although he seems to seek it out, doesn't he? He seems to kind of move off into the camp and all kinds of other things. So maybe he does like the attention and likes the company that we bring every single day. I'm pretty sure that's not the case, but you know these things. So I believe a lot of you are happy to see me back this morning. Yes, it was rather nice to be out, actually. Funny enough, last night I knew I was going to be on drive already again, quite soon after drive finished, and I thought I actually quite enjoy the fact that I'll be on drive. I would have been awake anyway, so I might as well be on drive now. And I'm flying out this afternoon, so I definitely won't be on the afternoon drive. But I would have had to have waited anyway for drive to finish, because Emma is also going on leave today, and I'm going to be taking her to the airport so she can also fly out, and so I would have had to wait for her to finish drive, so I might as well be on drive if I'm around. It's what I like to be doing, so it's all good. And I was diligent and I packed all my stuff yesterday, so I didn't even have to do any last minute packing, which is very, very good. I tell you one thing though, packing is not an easy thing for me. I struggle with it because I unfortunately have a lot of things. As most men are, they are hoarders and end up with all kinds of things. The man drawer gets quite full quite quickly, and so I have a lot of things that I wanted to take with me on this trip. The problem that I have is I'm only allowed 15 kilograms now, and that is total weight with hand luggage and a normal bag. So what's that, 30 pounds basically, just under 30 pounds, 29, 28 pounds, somewhere there. And the problem with that is that just my camera stuff, which is definitely coming no matter what, is about 16 kilograms, and so it's over the weight of what I'm actually allowed, and therefore I'm pretty much going to have to take no clothes at this rate if I'm going to stick to the 15 kilogram limit. What I'm hoping though is that I can somehow wangle it, that we can get at least a few extra kilograms and be able to take some clothes, because some clothes would be quite nice. I feel like the rest of the world would be quite happy if I had clothes on and didn't just walk around butt naked. That would be a bit weird. Imagine just walking into an airport like that. I think you'd be arrested immediately. So, you know, hopefully we'll be able to figure it out. I'm sure we will. Either way, they're going to have to deal with it. But I doubt they're going to say no if we're in that country already. And it's not because of the international flights. It's the flight to get into the actual park itself is a very light, small aircraft, and so it makes, you know, weight a huge thing. Diana, I did pack Wasana's suitcase yesterday. I put his 2 bowls in, so his little kitty kibble bowl and his little water bowl. I put them in the suitcase, and then he's a firm favorite of because we're going to the rainforest. He asked very nicely if I'd pack him some long sleeve pants and long sleeve shirts and a hat, because there's lots of tsetse flies where we're going and they bite a lot, so he asked me to pack those. And then because after the Congo I'm going to go to my family down on the coastline of South Africa, he also asked me to please put his swimming trunks in, because he would like to go for a little dip in the ocean when we get down that side of the world. So he's quite particular about the things that he likes, to be honest. He often puts in all kinds of requests for various things. I also had to take canned duiker because he says he's not sure if he's going to like the forest animals and what they taste like, so he asked for some canned duiker to take with as well, just in case he gets a little peckish as he goes around. No, of course, I'm just joking. He's not a flexitarian like Steve, no. He does not have a flexible diet, so we always joke with Steve that he's a flexitarian, which makes Steve a little on the grumpy side, because he doesn't like to, obviously we know he's a vegetarian and he doesn't you know, eat meat. And so every now and then though there's a thing here in South Africa called biltong, which I'm sure many of you have heard us talking about before. And biltong essentially is a weakness. When you're born in South Africa, basically you are injected with a like and a desire for biltong. It's basically a pre-coded notion within your DNA, and so here in South Africa everyone likes biltong. Well, 99% of the people do. And Steve can't help himself, and Conrad was telling me a story the other day where Steve and Conrad were watching rugby at Inga's, and he said Conrad had I think it was a friend that visited, or he had just come back from leave, and he had this really nice big packet of biltong, and he was super excited because he was going to sit and watch the rugby and eat his biltong. And we know that Conrad is a carnivore. There's no vegetarianism about him at all. Is that even a word, vegetarianism? But anyway, so Conrad settled down on the couch, packets of biltong, happy man. And he said Steve then sidled in next to him and sat down, and after a while he asked Conrad, what kind of biltong is this? And Conrad said, you know, it's not venison, Steve, so that means you can't, you know, this is not for you. And Steve said, no, let me just try some. And Steve then proceeded apparently to absolutely mangle said packet of biltong, and poor Conrad had to lose out on half of his amount of food. And if you know how dangerous it is to take meat away from Conrad. It's tantamount to going into the Nkahuma Pride and trying to steal their impala carcass that they've pulled down. It's not very good. You don't want to be that person that tries to take on Conrad as he tries to defend his biltong packet. But anyway, so we then started to call Steve a flexitarian, which is when he's flexible about his vegetarianism, which, like I say, gets him going a little bit. It's quite funny to watch, and that name actually came from another vegetarian in our camp, Jenna. She, I think, came up with that name, and so that's where flexitarian comes, and why Hosanna is not a flexitarian. He likes his things. He's a very particular cat. He wants certain things. He also asked if he could please pack him a pair of sunglasses too, and I asked him what kind of sunglasses he would like. He told me that he likes to go for colourful sunglasses, so he's definitely, and his pants, his little swimming costume, they're going to be blue because he wants it to be bright against his orange coat, and they must have little duikers on them as a kind of way that he's going to show off. That's what he wants, little duikers on his blue swimming trunks. That's what he's asked for. Exactly, it is a fashion line. A leopard's favorite prey on his pants. So leopard pants. Should we call them leopard pants? Yes, let's call them leopard pants. Hosanna, no, Hosanna hosiery wouldn't work because that would be not pants at all. Hosanna also wouldn't wear stockings. He's not a stockings kind of guy. I wonder if Hosanna would ride a skateboard, now that I think about it. I think he would. He seems like that kind of cat that would try it. A longboard. He is a bit of a hipster, isn't he? So maybe Hosanna would be a good surfer. I don't know. Who knows? He seems like that kind of way about him. This has devolved very quickly. So Anna Marie, yes, but not quite. These elephants have been naughty down here. They've pushed trees all over the place. So yes, but not quite. Essentially, biltong is a preserved, kind of salted and cured beef or venison that is made, which is pretty much what jerky is. It's dried, air dried, basically. And the thing is that biltong is made slightly differently. So biltong is often still quite. It still has. I don't know how to. Basically, it's still quite wet in comparison to jerky. It's not dried out to the nth degree. It's kind of done in you get a silver side fillet, and then it is prepared, and then when you cut it, it still will have a slight pinkness in the middle, and then the outer side will be a little bit more kind of dark in coloration. And it's like I say, it's often got a little kind of edging of fat on it, just for the flavor of that, and it actually is very, very good stuff. We have a whole bunch of biltong actually in the camp, so what I'll have to do is, David, you'll have to ask James to bring out some biltong this afternoon to show all of you what it actually looks like. David is a little biltong monster himself as well, so I'm sure they'll be able to bring some out this afternoon, or maybe even James can bring out some this morning on his walk. He can show us what biltong looks like. It's essentially, like I say, just a piece of fillet that's been kind of cured, but it's a little different to jerky. It doesn't taste the same, and also not as sweet. So I find that jerky has often got quite a sweet flavor to it, whereas biltong tends to be a lot more savory. They use coriander seed, red wine vinegar, that's common kind of parts of it, salt obviously, and a few other little secret spices. So a lot of you say you're not buying this, that it doesn't sound good. Don't knock it until you try it. When James shows you, you'll see that it's not like a steak that is, not cooked or anything like that. You'll see. James, you need to bring some out. So Emma, if you see James anywhere there, tell him to bring some biltong out to show everybody that we're not crazy, mad, savage South Africans, and that it is actually very tasty. Most people that try it actually really like it, from all over the world. Now, there are tracks for ellies all over the place here, so an elephant herd actually would be quite nice. Fancy cheetah, what is venison over here? Well, lots and lots of different things. So anything that is an antelope basically is a venison out here. So you'll find that impala, bushbuck, nyala, kudu, eland, gemsbok, wildebeest, what else? anything really, anything that's got horns and hooves typically can be turned into a venison. There's a few that are a little more tough than others, and so for the most part you see that they kind of will go for more things like impalas and the likes. Warthog is also a venison out here, bush pig, and in fact actually there's bush pigs that are farmed in some parts of South Africa where there's a lot of macadamias that grow, and the bush pigs actually eat the macadamia nuts, and then their meat gets this macadamia nut flavor to it. It's actually quite something to taste. It's very, very interesting. Particularly the fat gets this kind of macadamia nut sort of taste to it, which is... So Conrad apparently is drooling when I talk about that, because that's two of Conrad's favorite things, macadamia nuts and venison. So Conrad is probably a happy fellow right now when I talk about that, except that he's not happy because he doesn't have it in his mitts and is not feeding off it. I'm pretty sure Conrad right now has a bowl of cereal in front of him and is absolutely smashing that bowl of cereal. Conrad is a good snacker in the morning. He says to me he can't make it towards breakfast. It's too long, and so he hasn't got to his cereal yet. Oh no. Are we keeping him from his cereal, Emma? Let's not keep Conrad from his cereal. The man needs his cereal as much as possible. TriCaster is keeping him from his cereal. TriCaster better be careful, because it's about to be beaten and thrown in a fire if it keeps him from his cereal for too much longer. Right, let's check Treehouse Dam quickly, just to see if the Duke is around here. Child of the universe, what species of animal is the most popular food? You mean here in South Africa or worldwide? Because worldwide I honestly don't know the answer to it. Here in South Africa... Sorry, Rusty's being a little sticky. I forgot about Rusty's sticky accelerator pedal. Worldwide I would imagine it must be beef, surely? Or chicken, I suppose. Chicken would be one of those very, very popular animals. I suppose that's not a wild animal though, is it? So, wild animal wise... Here in South Africa, I would say, difficult. It's probably quite an even split in wild animals between impalas and kudu, who would be my guess. Those are the two kind of more common ones and the more popular ones. But yes, I don't know, to be honest with you. I'm not sure what worldwide it would be, or whether, if you're not talking wild animals, then I'd imagine chicken would be probably the one that's eaten the most worldwide. Pretty much every country you go to has chicken, and a lot of chicken at that. Okay, no sign of anything at Treehouse. I was hoping that maybe we got here, we'd see some sign of Tingana coming back from Little Gowrie, but he might have come back in a different direction. What is amazing though is how dry Treehouse is. I haven't been down here for weeks, and I've obviously been having a lot of fun around the camp because Hosanna and Co have been hanging around there, but Treehouse itself is just dwindling into a little puddle as we go. Now, I don't know if you all remember, I'm sure you do, with Hosanna and Tingana when they met up here the other day, which was about 2 weeks ago now. It might be longer. In fact, it probably is longer. But that night when Tingana came to drink, David, if you can go into the edge of the pan, or furthest part away from us, now up a little bit, you see there's a grassing edge there. Now, Tingana was drinking from pretty much roughly where the grassing edge, between the grassing edge and that dark patch. So at the edge of that dark patch is where he was drinking, so quite far back. It was about 2 meters back from there. So it gives you an idea of how much this has dried over since that period. It's quite something to actually watch the drying of these pans. It's decreasing by a matter of probably meters every week. It's quite something, and especially if we're going to get hot days like we had yesterday, you know, it's going to drive a lot of animals to try and come in desperation get water here, and that means that this little pan should shrink very, very quickly, unfortunately. Right, okay, let's carry on. Let's head towards Janet Jackson's house and Twin Dams in the hope that maybe something is happening there. I'm quite keen, actually, to be honest, to try and bump into this unknown male leopard that keeps being seen on the southern boundary. Now, for those of you who think that we just don't know who he is because we haven't seen him, no, it's because we don't actually know where he comes from. We've tried to find IDs on him, but nobody can work out where this male has come from. And given his shy nature when he first arrived here, I wouldn't be surprised he's come straight out of the Kruger and has arrived in this area, and that's why no one really kind of knows him too well. That would be my guess anyway. I suppose I should use my spotlight a little longer. It's still a bit too dark to not be using a spotlight. Michael, we most definitely could talk about leopard or lion dynamics. Which one would you like to talk about first? You tell me, lion or leopard. I'm happy to go into either one of them at the moment. So I kind of spent quite a long time, obviously, with the leopards, and we've discussed leopards quite a lot lately. So maybe let's start with... okay, we're going to go the lion route to start. And so the sub-adults being safe from the evoker males. Difficult to say. It depends on how firmly the evokers want to stamp their authority over the Nkuhuma pride, and whether or not they're prepared to fight with all of those females, because they're going to fight with those females if they go anywhere near those sub-adults, in a kind of conflicting way. And so I would say, you know, I would give it, what are they now? They're just over, they're almost 2.5 now. So, well, they are 2.5 now. So I would say maybe another 6 months to a year would probably be really kind of, they'd be very safe by that point, especially the females. Obviously the male's never going to be safe, unfortunately. He's going to have a very tough time of it over the course of his life. He's going to probably try and cling on to that pride as long as possible, and then he's going to get chased at some point, and if not chased, unfortunately, he might have to fight for his life, which is going to be very difficult. But the 5 sub-adult females that are there, they should be theoretically, once they reach about 3 years old, 3.5, they normally are quite fine. The males generally then leave them alone, and because they're starting to be seen as an adult lioness, they start coming into their first estrus cycles, which means that they can then, you know, mate, and the males then are more interested in mating with them than seeing them as a cub that they, you know, are trying to kill to bring the mothers back into estrus. So, I mean, it also depends on the females. It depends on whether any of those mothers start to come into an estrus cycle over the course of the next few weeks or months, and that will obviously dictate whether or not the evokers are going to be aggressive towards those sub-adults, or see them as, like I say, potential mating rights a little bit later in life. So that's kind of the way we stand with them. It's a difficult one because you never quite know. Some coalitions come in with fire and brimstone and kill cubs quickly and actively hunt down these sub-adults, and others, you know, will try and kind of edge their way in. And it often happens though with older cubs. You know, if it's very small cubs, I think the evokers by now would have probably tried in some way to kill them already. But if they're older like these ones, you know, they've got to try and fight those 5 females plus all of those sub-adults. It's a lot of lions to try and go after. You know, it's almost 11 against 3, and so they've got to be a little careful about the way they do it, and they tend to be a little more kind of apprehensive about killing them at the age that they're at. So I think they'll be okay. I mean, like I say, I think 6 months time they will be perfect. Now the Birmingham boys, yes, they are alive. I know I say this, but I know that 3 of them are seeing regularly. So between Malamala and Londolozi, the 3 of them are around there, and that's Nena and Suku and Tinyo. Mfumo has not been seen now in, I think it's 11 weeks or going on around that area, and so it doesn't look good for him. I mean, I don't know the situation around what happened there. I don't know where he's been, what he's been up to. I don't know whether or not he potentially was seen going into Kruger and has found a pride there that he's been hanging around with, and that's why he hasn't come back. But it sounds very odd to me that, I suppose, I mean, if you look at here, you know, we haven't seen the Birmingham boys in how long? And so it's very possible, I mean, he could have gone into the Kruger and has just been sitting on that side and doing his thing. But you know, normally with a coalition of males, even if one goes towards another pride, at some point they join up with each other, and so for him not to have been seen with the other 3 at all is a little of the concerning side. But the other 3 are seen regularly. Like I said, almost daily they're seen on between Malamala and Londolozi, and all of them seem to be doing well. Tinyo is looking decidedly scrappy of late. He's got lots of cuts and scrapes all over him, so I think he's been boxing with his siblings as well as with a couple of the females down there. Right, now I'm sorry that you all had to endure my nattering for as long as you did, but it sounds like James is ready to go on bushwalk, and so let's send you across so you can say good morning and show you what biltong looks like.
Hello everybody, good morning. Welcome to this end of the Sunrise Safari. My name is James Henry. On camera today is Senzo Sleepy Mkizi. Just woken him up, I have. And I'm pretty sure that none of you minded listening to Tristan's nattering. I find it very, I find it most peaceful and calming to listen to Tristan talking when he's on drive. The reason I'm speaking so quietly is that we are not far from camp. I'm not trying not to wake everyone up, but of course this is where Hosanna has been over the last few days, our 2.5-year-old male leopard prince. And there are some francolins going wick, 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 indicating perhaps the presence of Hosanna the male leopard. So that's what we're looking for now. Herbert is just in the trees there, having a look, and we are walking along in the open, seeing if we can't spot him. Please talk to us, of course, using the hashtag SafariLive on Twitter, otherwise the chat stream on YouTube. It's always lovely to hear from you. Thank you for helping Tristan out over the last 25 minutes. It is, of course, just going to be us this afternoon, or this morning. Sydney's had a family bereavement. There's a nyala over there. You see it? And the Mara is having a day off. And so this afternoon we're not really sure what we're going to do at this stage. But we'll keep you posted. Lovely, lovely chorus there. A duet of crested francolins. Parachute Adams is definitely warm enough during the middle of the day for reptiles to be out, and they are out. But it's still quite chilly this morning. I mean, it's not cold. It's probably about, I'd say, 18 degrees Celsius or so, maybe between 16 and 18, so between 61 and 65 degrees Fahrenheit. I think that's probably the temperature now. Most of the reptile action I've seen over the last little while, interestingly, has been in the final control room. There's a striped-bellied skink that lives in there. I'm not sure that any of the ladies in the final control have seen him, but he lives underneath the desk there. And apparently he's Jerry's favourite. Jerry does know that he's there. That's good. Hope he doesn't get sucked up in the vacuum cleaner. It would be very unpleasant. So we've popped out now at the Gallagher Pan, which is a waterhole just in front of one of Juma's camps. That is Gallagher Camp. And we'll have a look around here for tracks. It's the most gorgeously quiet, still morning. Beautiful. Kim, pangolins? Well, if we could find a pangolin, interestingly, most of the pangolin research in any of these sort of guidebooks that you read comes from research done in the Sabi Sands, so they are around here in the Sabi Sands. I've seen tracks, I've seen a burrow once, I've seen some dung once. I've never seen one here though. Brent has seen one here. In the Mara, yes, in theory they should be found in the Mara. I don't know of anybody who's found them. As with so many of our endangered species, they are endangered, unfortunately, because of human beings, and they're used largely for various traditional medicines. Their skins and their scales are used, and so they're poached, or have been poached, pretty much to extinction in most places. And in fact, you know, there are a number of pangolin species. There's only one pangolin species that we get here, but there's another African pangolin species called a tree pangolin, and there are pangolin species all over Asia. But I've never seen one here. You'd find them at night. They are strictly nocturnal, and you'd find them in amongst the trees in the drainage line areas. No. I thought I heard some alarming. I did not. I almost don't want to talk any louder than this today, at least until the sun's come up, because I feel it would break the spell of this dawn. It's just so special, so still. Just a few of the new spring birds coming out. There's a white-bellied sunbird going, flitting between the tops of the trees looking for a mate. The white-browed scrub robins have started calling again. And the hornbills have started calling again. They've been silent for the whole winter. And the thicker the bush becomes, so the louder the bird call comes, or the bird call starts. President Camucho, yes, indeed, we have had some flowers. The main flowers findable now are those of the knobthorn tree. The knobthorn tree is the first to produce flowers, normally just at the end of August and into the beginning of September. We'll try and find you some of those. The tambuti trees have flowered too, but they've got very indistinct flowers. And in fact, if you look up here, you can see these kind of buds. And I think that the indistinct flower of the tambuti is contained there. They will produce their seeds very early on. I can also hear a crested barbet going. And the hyena way in the distance whooping, its calls echoing through the woodlands. While I appreciate the silence of the dawn, the gorgeous smells, the sight of fresh cat scat, slightly sullying the atmosphere here, let us go back across to Tristan.
Well, enjoy, James, and hopefully you'll find some interesting things on your walk. I am down at Twin Dams, and we've just heard some baboons alarm calling, so I'm trying to just quickly get towards where I think that they're calling from. I saw their tracks going in towards the Mulwati area, but it sounds like just beyond the Mulwati is where they're calling. So I just want to get up onto Leadwood, and then we're going to stop and switch off again. Baboons unfortunately have incredible eyesight, and so seeing them and then finding what they're shouting at is two very, very, very different things. And so we're going to have to just have our wits about us here as we try and find where this animal is that they are upset with and what this animal is that they are upset with. It could be a multitude of different things that can make a baboon quite angry. Imagine how cool it would be if it was a crowned eagle. That would make my day. Crowned eagles are not something we see very often, and it is my favorite bird of prey. Now let's just stop and listen quickly. So they're still shouting. Sounds like Mulwati area actually, now that I'm on this side. They're quite far north of where we are, so let's go. We're going to take a little secret shortcut, but don't tell anybody, to get to where we need to go. But we're going to stay on Leadwood for a little bit, just in case this animal is walking on Leadwood area. I have a funny feeling that it could be, whichever animal it is could be walking on a road somewhere, and they're spotting it from quite a long distance. So it could be Hosana, it could be Tingana, it could be Tandi, Tlalamba, but they're definitely shouting somewhere on the northern side of us, which means that hopefully we'll be able to find whatever it is, and we might jump into the Mulwati just now. But like I say, we're going to take a little shortcut to a little pan that's off Mamba. There's no water in the pan, but it's an area that our leopards like to hang around in. I know that Tingana and Hosana both have spent quite a bit of time there over the last few weeks, and so we'll just have a little quick scan around that section. And then I'm going to turn off and just try listen once again. Dory, be careful of baboons. Well, baboons and I have a, what can I say, a strained relationship in this area is probably the best way to put it. I am not a huge fan of baboons around here, and I know it's horrible to say because they are amazing creatures and they have incredible social structures and are really entertaining to watch, but the amount of times I've had to clean their blood and vomit and poo out of a kitchen or a room or a something is more than I just want to even tell you. And I can tell you that there's very few things quite like cleaning up a baboon party that's been had in a kitchen where they have gone crazy and then decided to defecate everywhere. The smell is one of the most wretched things that you can ever imagine. And so, you know, I have a love-hate relationship. Now here their tracks are. Okay, so I found their tracks, which is good news. So not tracks for the lions or leopards or anything that it could be, for the baboons themselves. Nice little parcel that they left on the road there as well. So we'll just avoid that, because I was just saying it smells horrendous, baboon poo. It's not very pleasant stuff at all. Now it looks like they still went up this way. I just want to turn off again, see if I can hear them one more time. So Joshua, it's generally an experience thing, so spending a lot of time out here, and then the more you kind of spend time out here, the more you'll hear certain animals, and obviously inquiring minds mean that you go and investigate sounds, and that's how you learn the alarm calls of birds and various other animals. It seems like they've gone quiet now. Now the thing is with baboons, when they see a predator that's close, they go absolutely crazy and they're screaming and carrying on. What's happening here is there's just one that's been shouting constantly, and so I feel like the predator is not close to where they are. So we're going to just try and keep checking, but I'm going to keep going to the east, and I know it's a bit counterintuitive because the baboons are shouting on my left here, but I want to just check if maybe this is not a leopard that's walking on a road quite far away from here. In fact, there's leopard tracks right now. Okay, so we've got tracks for a male leopard walking on the road here, so we're going to keep following these and see where they go. That's good news. Now hopefully they go the way that we want them to go, so just walking straight along, basically on top of the baboon tracks effectively is where this leopard track is. So I'll try and show you what I'm talking about. If you have a look in the tire track at the moment, on the right hand side you'll see the little kitty prints that we are looking for. So those are the tracks that we're trying to find. A few birds shouting in front here that might indicate something's around, so let's keep going quite quickly. Nice fresh tracks these, so I'm pretty sure that this leopard is quite close to where we are. It's in amongst the baboon tracks and on top of the baboon tracks, so I'm hoping that we're going to find this fella walking on the road itself. Now it looks to me to be Tingana's tracks. It's a big male leopard track, so let's check. Keep your eyes peeled, David. I feel like this leopard is not far from where we are. I hope it hasn't crossed though. Dory, I mean, to a degree, there is, I mean, a bit more assertiveness in Hosana's motions towards Tingana. Not much though. I mean, he's still very much submissive, and he has to be. If he tries too much with Tingana, he's going to get himself into a lot of trouble, and he's going to get himself hurt, because Tingana is just still physically so much bigger than what he is. Now I've lost the track, I think. No, that looks like it still might be there. So let's just keep going on these tracks. And so, you know, he really can't afford at this stage to be too abrasive towards Tingana, because it's going to land him in a lot of trouble. He's at the moment living a very charmed life in that he's got Tingana doing all the patrolling, keeping him safe, and so his demeanor needs to be a very careful one, and he needs to play a very careful game here, because if he plays his cards right, the aging of Tingana will catch up with him just as Hosana starts to come into a size and a time of his life where he's going to be able to actually challenge for a territory. If he pushes Tingana too hard now and Tingana gets rid of him while Tingana's still fit and healthy, well, he's going to have a tough time then to deal with all these other leopards that are in these areas. So you get a lot of other different leopard that move around, and you know, obviously we know the dangers that Hukamuri poses towards Hosana, Anderson, all these different individuals that move around in these areas. Alright, now it looks like this leopard is cut off. So where is it cut off, and which way did it go? I have a funny feeling it's gone northwards. Let's just check to the north here. No, wait, I've still got the tracks now. Too early to panic. Right, now I'm going to keep going and try and see if I can find where this leopard goes, and while we do that, let's send you back across to James and the Bushwalk team and see if they've had any luck with tracks on their side.
We haven't had any luck with any fresh tracks, everybody, but we are still searching, and we shall try and find some small things as well. We did find some lovely evidence of a woodpecker. In fact, so much evidence, in fact, that it was the woodpecker itself. It was a bearded woodpecker going making its territorial beating. Now this is round about, I think, where they left Hosanna yesterday evening. So we're just having a squiz around here to see if we can't find any tracks. Then we might go down towards the south, where yesterday, from where I was sitting in the tent, I heard some impala alarm calling, most likely at Tundi and Tlalamba, because we haven't seen them for a while, and the last time we saw any evidence of them, they were going into that area. It's an area sort of off to the southwest there, probably about, I don't know, half a mile. Now, let's have a look here at this piece of horn. Now, as many of you will know, there are some things out here that are indigestible. One of those substances is keratin. Keratin, as far as I know, is only digested by that very clever keratophagous moth, which lays its eggs in the dead horns, or in the horns of dead antelope, and they then eat away at the keratin, and they make their cocoons out of the waste product, out of their dung, but they manage to eat keratin. Nothing, including a hyena, is able to eat or derive any nutrition from keratin. A hyena might eat something like this if they eat small hooves and that sort of thing. If they cannot digest it, it comes out in the dung almost whole, as does hair. So hair and horns and hooves are completely indigestible. And it's one of very few substances that nothing out here, well, but for the keratophagous moth, is able to use. The other thing that is very difficult to use, of course, is cellulose and lignin. Those are the two structural materials that make up, or that give a plant its rigidity, and without which this thing will just flop over like a piece of wet spaghetti. And most things cannot derive any nutrition from those two substances. In the absence of bacteria, or in the case of many of the termite species, that grow fungus to help them digest those things. So, that's a little discussion on indigestibility. Paul, are the horns used for anything else? By whom? By people. Well, the horns, interestingly, of some of the tragolaphids, which this was a bushbuck or a nyala. I think it was probably a bushbuck. It's a bit small, but the kudu horns are used as trumpets. What they do is they'll open up a little hole over there and then blow trumpet-like into it, and it makes quite a nice sound, actually. It is unlikely to allow you to the sort of tonal range you would need to play the Mozart trumpet concerto, for example, but it does make quite an attractive sound. Otherwise, no, just for decoration, really, and for dog chewing toys. Not good for dogs, apparently, because they cannot digest keratin. So you'll often find hooves, cows' hooves, cattle hooves, in pet shops for your dogs to chew, and, well, apparently that's not very good for them. The sun is just starting to peep up over the horizon. I think it's going to be a fairly blindingly hot day today. And Herbert has disappeared off on some tracks. That's good news. See if we can find him. Pippin, yes, they are completely hollow on the inside. That's why I was able to pick it up over there. They're not hollow when they're on the antelope, though, because there's bone inside it. So what's happened there is that keratin sheath has come off the bone, and obviously the skull with the horns attached to it has either been chewed up and eaten by hyenas, or it's just disintegrated over the years. So, yes, they are semi-hollow, I suppose you could say. Oh, Tristan has gone a long way to the east. That's quite exciting. He's exploring terra incognito to the east.
Well, we are exploring, but only because the tracks are taking us this far at the moment. So we've crossed into Torchwood now and still mobile east at the moment. I've lost the tracks for now, so I'm just trying to reassess where they've gone and try and pick them up once again. It seems as though he crossed straight over the cheetah cut line though. Very nice fresh tracks that came over here, so I'm pretty sure it's Tingana. I'm pretty sure he's not far either. It's just got to kind of find him. There's still a lot of baboon tracks on the road, which is complicating things. A baboon track can sometimes look very similar to a leopard track, and so you've got to kind of pay attention. There's lots and lots of nice termite mounds here though, so I'm hoping that I'll pick up Tingana on one of these mounds, sitting beautifully and looking around. That's the kind of plan anyway. Harley, if it depends on which leopard we're talking about. A big adult male leopard, yes, he could take on a fully grown male baboon, but a female leopard and a leopard of even Hosanna size, doubt it. They're quite nervous of baboons. Oof, that sunrise is quite something on our left hand side at the moment. Look at that, isn't that beautiful? That's very, very pretty. So it's actually not a bad time also just to turn off and maybe listen. Maybe we get lucky with a maybe alarm call or something that indicates as to where this leopard's gone. But I have a funny feeling it might have crossed up towards Torchwood Dam. That's the nearest water from where we are, and so I was just thinking that maybe it's gone that way. I just want to keep driving here just to see. Let's see, maybe we get lucky. Now, so Christine, sorry, I didn't get most of that, but I got, is he going to eat people in the form of Hosanna? No, I don't think so. He was not in a tent yesterday, he was just in the camp in general, just around. And the tent that we were talking about the other day was the one where we used to have a tent that, or we do have a tent, I mean we still use it in the summer when there's rain. It's an area that we can go into and broadcast if there's really a lot of rain, and so it's quite close to the camp. And so he was just sitting at that area because it's a little bit removed from the camp. It's a shady little spot that he can get himself into, make sure that he's got a nice little bit of shade during the day, and it's quite quiet there for the most part. So it's just a little tent that's off from us, that's got kind of some of our equipment, like I say, that we broadcast from every now and then. And will he eat people? No, I don't think so. There's a very simple reason for Hosanna and his behavior at the moment. It's got nothing to do with the fact that he is, you know, trying to hunt people, which is, I mean, that's really not what's going on. What's happening is that he's attracted to the camp because it's winter, there's very little water, and you've got two pans on either side of that camp that are currently being pumped, which means that they are attracting a number of prey animals. You've also got a camp where there are plants that are being watered and plants that are growing that are attracting various amounts of prey species, so nyala, bushbuck, you know, all over that camp. And so he's got a captive market in that he can hunt as well as find water, and it's the best thing for him. Now, as you can see here, we have a beautiful red-crested Quran that is bobbing about. These guys are quite common in these more kind of open sections. You'll find them moving around quite a lot in these kind of areas, and they're amazing camouflage. So you see when that black belly is not exposed, it's very, very, very difficult to actually see these guys when they turn their back to you. Oh, spotted something. What have you found? Gobbled that up. It's breakfast time after all, but sometimes it's good to stop near these guys because you can actually get lucky. If it's this time of the day, they often vocalize and do their little suicidal display. If it's the male, this is a female in this case, but sometimes the male is close by, and then they'll sit on top of termite mounds, they'll call. It's very, very cool to actually see it in action, so hopefully we'll get lucky. The only problem is that these tracks, if this animal is not where we are now, which is what I was hoping, then I'm afraid they're going too deep into Torchwood for us to probably follow them effectively without losing signal. And given that James is on walk, I don't want to spend too much time in here because it's very difficult for our cameraman to hold the bushwalk camera so steady for very long periods of time. So I can't go off the grid for too long as we drive around. The signal is a little dodgy. We're in the right car though. Rusty's much better when it comes to signal than what Wendy is out here. So hopefully we'll get lucky. Now, there's a fire break coming up here, but this leopard I don't think is here. I've missed his tracks somewhere, which I know is naughty. I shouldn't have. but I think that I have missed his tracks, and I'll tell you why. Because unless he came down this pathway, which could very well be... No, he didn't come down this pathway, I don't think. We're further south than where I had the tracks kind of cutting in, and the tracks were going in a north-easterly direction, not a southeasterly direction, over Cheetah Cut Line. So, it would have meant that he's done a wholesale change of his movement pattern, which I don't think he would have done. I think he's heading towards Torchwood Dam is where he's off to. So, we're just going to double check here quickly. If there's nothing here, then back to... We'll turn around basically and head back to the road that we were on. James, no, I haven't heard anything on Kuchava recently, unfortunately. I know she was seen a few times around Chitwa Camp, moving about there, but no updates in the last, I would say, probably 3-4 days. I haven't heard anything of late. No tracks coming out here, so can't have come in this direction. Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to try and head. There's one more road that cuts up, so I want to take that road kind of going northwards again and just see if I can pick up his tracks somewhere in that vicinity. Tingana likes to walk here. He's often on this fire break. There's a few termite mounds he likes to sit on here, so just going to try and see if I can pick him up somewhere in this area. You never know, maybe even Kuchava's around as well. We're heading into her prime territory at the moment. This is an area where she spends a lot of time. Chitwa's just on our right, so you can actually just see on the top of that ridge up there, that's Chitwa Airstrip at the moment. So we're not too far from there, which obviously we know Kuchava does spend a bit of time. So let's try and see if we can get some sort of sign of our dominant male leopard. Here's another big track that I just want to check. He hasn't come out on. No. So this is the only thing, is that with Torchwood it's quite difficult because the roads don't run in the same way they run on Jumo, which is quite odd. They're often at random angles, and so you've got to kind of work out and think quite clearly where you think he's going to pop out. And I would have thought he would have come out on that road that we were on just now, but it seems as though he is still kind of moving, maybe more northwards. Still lots of baboon tracks here. Alright, no sign on any of our mounds. Denise, the last sighting of Tundi and the cub was 2 nights ago, if I'm not mistaken. 2 nights ago on the dam camp. She was seen with Columba and Hosanna together there, and then they went south from there. They went down towards Philemon's Dip, and then yesterday morning their tracks were seen going eastwards towards through the Mulwati from Elephant Carcass side. So they're around. They're just being Tundi and Columba, doing their thing and kind of taking it easy at this stage, and sort of probably on a carcass somewhere. Actually, knowing her, she's probably eating things somewhere in one of the blocks. No, nothing there. Right, we're going to take this next road that goes northwards, that hopefully is going to yield us some results. If nothing, well, we'll head back towards Juma and try and give James a hand with those alarm calling zebras and see what we can find, because I don't want to be out of signal for too long. But in the meantime, let's send you back to James and see whether or not he's had any luck getting towards those zebras.
That, of course, is the sound of alarm-calling zebras. We did hear them. We're not sure exactly from where, somewhere around the clearings outside camp, but there have been some lion tracks seen coming this way. Maybe they saw the lions and they were going in alarm and terror. Senzo, would you like to make the alarm call of the zebra? Not. Are you sure? His mouth hasn't quite woken up yet. You see, got out of bed late this morning. Let's have a little bit of a dung examination here, shall we? This, over here, is the midden of some impala, and you can see it is used regularly. Here is freshish dung. Here's very old dung. And here is quite, well, this is interesting dung. I'm pretty sure it's impala as well, but this particular impala has got what we might describe as bean-shaped dung, got quite long dung. And this, I just want to break open before I touch it. That's fine. This is a warthog. Now, warthog is almost exactly the same as the but it isn't quite the same. The difference being that, well, there's mostly only grass, but the shape is different. The shape comes out in a sort of straightish, how do we put this? A straightish turd, I suppose, as opposed to a kidney-shaped one. But they have a very similar look to them. Very similar to zebra dung. Yes, good. Good, lots of impala here. And the reason there is an impala midden, if you look around us here, is that it's cool, which means that there's shade here during the middle of the day, and also it's pretty clear. So there's not a lot of low vegetation, low, thick vegetation, which means that impala can come here probably quite comfortably chew the cud during the middle of the day without fear of being devoured, as there might be if they went further down towards the riverbed, where the vegetation is that much thicker. As you can see, the bush around us is turning gold with the risen sun, which is a tremendous pleasure. And we're just going to cross over here towards quarantine clearings outside camp, simply because we're not finding any tracks over here. No, Robert, I don't think I could tell how old an impala was from its dung. I wonder how you would do that. I don't suppose the shape of the bottom changes a great deal, so I don't suppose the shape of the dung changes a great deal. You might be able to tell if you could sample it and stick it in a lab, and maybe there's some chemical that changes with the age of the impala. I doubt it, though. I wonder if that happens with human beings. I don't think you could tell the age of a human being from its dung either. You probably could. There is probably some chemical marker. I have no idea what it would be, though. Now, we have countless times followed Hosanna walking through these thickets here. So maybe we'll be lucky again. Herbert has stopped just up ahead. It always amazes me that it gets colder as the sun comes up. Then, of course, I think it's going to cook today. I think it's going to be blindingly hot. We're into the real business end of the dry and hot season. Well, Zimir, this is something that nobody can predict, of course, despite what the meteorological people will tell you. We don't know when the first good rains will come. We don't even know if we'll have good rains this year. I think we will. I think normally after a cold winter with repeated cold fronts, we have a pretty good rain season. But we would expect the bulk of the rain to fall between the end of November and somewhere around the end of February. Then you'll get bits and pieces on either side of that. Normally there's one sort of inch or 120 millimeter thunderstorm during the course of September. Normally it's pretty dry. Normally October's pretty dry, and you just see the thunder clouds building on the mountains, and then they dissipate. And that happens again and again. And then around about November we start to get some proper rains. Yes, Paula, I think you can find an animal's DNA in its dung, as far as I'm aware. Every cell in the body has got DNA in it, and there will be cells in the dung of an animal because, of course, the digestive tract is going to slough off cells all the time. So I'm going to say yes. I think if you were careful enough, you could probably find the animal's DNA. I have no idea how you would do it. I've got no clue how you'd isolate it, but there are fancy chemicals you could use that would be able to do it. There is a crested barbet on that tree there, warming himself in the sun. I enjoyed those birds, as I've said to you. Probably one of the first birds I ever learnt, mainly because our cat, Miss Brown, caught one was astounded that Miss Brown managed to catch something so colourful in our garden at home in Johannesburg. Miss Brown was soundly castigated for that, but of course she never stopped catching birds. Interestingly, house cats, which I know a lot of you have, and I know my mother has, of course, are responsible for a really disturbing number of bird deaths. And they've done some research in England that show the sort of diversity and population sizes of birds would be far greater in the absence of the domestic moggy. I know that's going to scandalise many of you, but unfortunately it would seem to be true. So do encourage your moggy not to kill birds. Mainly we now insist that my mother ties a bell round her cat's neck so that it makes a dinging noise wherever it goes, and that gives the birds warning and they can fly away. No, we should not do that to Hosanna. That is ridiculous, Emma. Poor old Hosanna needs all the help he can get. I think if you tell Tristan that we should attach a bell to Hosanna, he would be very upset indeed.
Indeed, James, they would be. Now, I'm looking very carefully because we've got the tracks for this leopard again. They're mobile now northwards towards Torchwood Dam. So I'm pretty sure it's Tingana, and I'm pretty sure he's on a territorial mission at this stage, walking very quickly. So his tracks are just here, kind of rounding the bend now. So our theory of coming and checking this road that ran north again was a good one, and I know he likes to walk around here, and I'm almost certain we're going to get him at some point on a termite mound somewhere, if he hasn't already slowed down. I mean, he might be early evening this could have happened, although it's on top of everything though, so the tracks look really nice and fresh. So I want to try and just double check where they go from here. Now, looks like he might have... No, his tracks are still on the left-hand side there, which is good news. So he's still going up. Now, the dam is not too far from where we are at the moment, and so I'm hoping that he's just decided to go and have a bit of a drink of water. It looks like he's cut straight through there towards the dam itself. So we'll have to just kind of check it out where he's gone. Just also checking all these mounds, because I know Tingana, he's a mound cat in the morning, often likes to be sitting on top of a mound looking around on his territory. If he's moving, often up on top just to look, and then he's down again. So sometimes you can catch him if you just look carefully. It of course could be also, you know, a number of other leopards too. It could be the skittish male, and it could be quarantine. Could it be? Maybe? Let's try and see. But his tracks have definitely cut off. We don't have them anymore. So it looks like he's gone into the drainage and then... Now, I'm sorry if there's a few gremlins as we go. We unfortunately probably going to lose a bit of signal with where we're heading. It's literally this drainage point, and the fact that Chitwa Mars can't see us at this stage when we drop in here, so I'm hoping that it will last and be alright. But let's try and quickly check this hole. If there's nothing there, then we'll head up and back to signal. In the meantime, I'll send you back to James.
Herbert and I are just discussing where we're going. We're going to go and check up towards the southwestern corner of quarantine clearings, which are the clearings just outside of camp. I know that for some of you it must be a little irritating that every time I say Biffle's Hook, the property just to the north of us, or Little Gowrie, the property just to the south of us, or the clearings outside the camp called quarantine, it's just that so that if we do have some new viewers, of course, they know what we're talking about. I think that's very important. Oh, Janet, it's such a bugbear for me, this. Why would you call an area quarantine? It brings up images of smallpox, yellow fever, various dread diseases that ships used to bring into port. And the reason is that it was used as a quarantine area when animals were introduced to this place. So they'd bring sable in, for example, they'd put them in a boma there on the clearings, and they would be in quarantine, and that's why it's called quarantine clearings. Yes, I don't like it myself. What is even more disturbing and more unfortunate is that a leopard took its name from those clearings, and there is now a leopard that lives in the southeastern parts of our traversing area and into Cheetah Plains called quarantine male leopard, brother to Hosanna. He's about 3 years old. No, he's a lot older. Yeah, about 3 years older than Hosanna. And, I mean, you can't call a leopard quarantine, surely. You don't want to think of disease every time you see the magnificent animal. I think that's probably the reason that everybody on the chat there, I think, called him Mr. Q. I think it's much better, Mr. Q. Far better than quarantine. It's a little bit like Shidulu, whose name I really dislike. Why would you call a magnificent animal like that a termite mound? Because she sits on them. Would you call your child sofa, or chair, or bar stool? No, of course you wouldn't. And if you are thinking about calling your child sofa or chair, please don't. Now, we'll come to the Wahlberg's Eagle's Nest of Mr. and Mrs. Wahlberg, the pale form pair, and they have yet to grace us with their presence. Only 2 Wahlbergs so far this year, and that's the couple that lives down near Twin Dams. Usually Twin Dams is quite a romantic sounding name. So I don't know where they are yet or why they aren't here. Thank you, Diane. Yes, we enjoy giving you the names of the places, and if you are interested in the roads and all of those sorts of things, as I do say quite often, there is a superb Google map of Djuma itself with all the road names on it. So if we ever mention a road, you can actually find exactly where we are. And one day, I suppose, we will probably be able to give you a live feed of where the vehicles are, for example, so you'll actually be able to see where we all are and where we're looking. We can do that ourselves at the moment, but we don't publish that information. Now, here is a very interesting knobthorn tree, and if you couldn't misidentify this chap, look at these phenomenal knobs that it has. I've knocked one off. This is the most impressively knobbed knobthorn tree I've ever seen. I mean, that's quite a knob, isn't it? And I suspect that it is so largely knobbed because it's been pushed over so many times. Normally only the young trees have got knobs on them, but if the tree never grows up, I suppose that its knobs just get bigger. This is the Peter Pan of knobthorn trees. The knobs, of course, are used, I believe, for toothache. I've never used one for toothache. I've always taken to hard drugs from Big Pharma. But apparently you can crush these up and put them on toothache and it will help. I find codeine the best for something like toothache. Of course, it's illegal in a lot of places. Here, you've got a very interesting burrowing in the wood of the knobthorn. And I wonder if this wasn't a woodpecker. It looks like it could have been a woodpecker, because it looks like the wood is splintered as opposed to very finely drilled. So I think a woodpecker has had a go there. Very impressive little hole. And of course it's quite a soft wood. It's quite a soft wood, which means that things like woodpeckers don't struggle to get into it, and which means that, of course, a knobthorn tree like this is not going to stand for very long. Senzo is nodding with great appreciation that you appreciated his camera work here of the knobthorn tree. Senzo, would you like to do it again? It created such delight. There we we go. He's still yet to speak his first word today. The first word he spoke today was the word sorry, as I banged on his door, and since then there hasn't been an utterance. Sorry, Lauren, I missed your question there. Oh, biltong, you know what, I did actually bring it. I took it out of the kitchen and I've now managed to leave it behind just outside the final control. I'm sorry about that. I heard Tristan say that I should get some. I did go and get some, and then I left it just outside the final control, which was very poor of me. Then the last thing I want to show you over here is this thing called root bark. Now, we often talk about bark and we talk about roots, but the roots actually have their own bark. And often the root bark is separated from the roots and used medicinally. And here you can see this root bark. And this particular root bark is being attacked by a bracket fungus. There we go. Which apparently some people like to eat. I've never tried it. One should be very careful of eating any sort of fungus, of course, unless one is well trained. Unless one is a fungologist. Come on, Senzo. I think we've milked this area for all it's worth. Herbie is still up ahead looking for tracks. Are the knobs from broken branches? No, they're not, Carol. The knobs are, they just grow on the side of the trunk. You're normally only on a young tree. If you look at this one here, this is a knobthorn tree. You can see it's got almost no knobs on it. Alright, Tristan has managed to re-find some signal, which is very exciting. Let's go back across to him.
Towards your side. We have indeed, so we've come on to probably one of the most beautiful spots in the whole of the Northern Sabi Sands. We're sitting on top of the rocky areas that is known as a first rock, and second rock. So there's the two of them kind of run in unison from one side of the drainage to the other, and it is really very, very pretty on here. You can see there's the rocks that kind of go across, and one day we will get lions or leopard on top of these rocks. Now, unfortunately, where this leopard has gone exactly where I didn't want it to go. It went into the drainage line that runs towards Chitwa Dam, the Muluwanini, but unfortunately for us, we just don't have any signal, there we go, on the Muluwanini, and so we've had to abandon the search there in the hope that maybe he came up towards these rocks. The Muluwanini is running just below us here. It's just down below. In fact, I'll try and sneak forward a little bit to show you what I'm talking about, and I'll show you where we kind of came from with his tracks. Hopefully we don't lose signal. Let's just try and pray, because sometimes on top here you can drop off signal a little bit, but I'll just show you from the rock side of things. Isn't it beautiful? I think it's amazing. It's so different to anything we've got on Djuma that I always love coming onto these rocks. They're spectacular. In fact, it's only the second time I've been on Torchwood since we've had it. But anyway, so you'll see to the right hand side here, there's going to be, in that area there is a camp, which is Torchwood Camp. Now down in front of that is a pan, and then just to the left in front here is where the Muluwanini runs. So this is the drainage section that runs all the way to Chitwa Dam, and so that leopard has gone inside this drainage section. We followed the tracks into there and is then walking still northerly direction, so I thought maybe we might catch him somewhere around here. He might also be at the dam itself, but the problem is that the signal at the dam is not ideal. It's really kind of, as soon as you get low, you have a problem on the side, and so we need to kind of get onto western facing slopes for now and try and kind of look for him like that. Now, while I'm sitting here, I've also been trying to see if I can find any giant plated lizards, because this is a perfect habitat for giant plated lizards. You get a lot of them that go into these little crags in underneath the rocks, and sometimes in the mornings, if you come early in the mornings like this, you find them all just poking their heads out as they try and start sunning themselves from a night of coldness, and you sometimes get lucky and find them kind of just emerging from those areas. But it seems like no giant plated lizard for us today, unfortunately, and the rocks seem all quite quiet. But one day is one day. We're going to get something spectacular on these rocks. I know the guys have seen amazing stuff on here. I mean, I speak to Aubrey and Tax often, and they've had quarantine on here many, many times. Tandy and Tlalamba were on here the other day, apparently. They had the Lions in Kahuma Pride, Torchwood Pride, Birmingham Boys, all on top of these rocks, and so one day we're going to get a spectacular sighting here, particularly if it's late afternoon or even these early morning lights. It's absolutely amazing. Right, now I believe unfortunately my signal is starting to be a bit dodgy, so just trying to go slowly to see if I can see anything on top here. It doesn't look like it though. It doesn't even look like there's been any tracks. All the tracks that I'm seeing is for people at this stage. There's a popular drink spot, as you can imagine. The sun will set there early morning, the sun rises. I would love to come here for a sunrise one day. I think it would be quite spectacular to be here for a sunrise. So one day, David, we must try leave a little earlier and then try and get into this spot as that sun rises, because I think it would be quite something to see the sun coming up from the eastern side where these rocks are. I think it would be very, very cool. Okay, well, we're going to try and have to move. I do apologize if there's a bit of signal breakup. It's possible that there will be, hopefully not. David, yeah. One is that they're building at Chitwa, which means that Tingana's favorite little haunt is very busy at the moment. But the second thing is most definitely that there must be a presence of this leopard. And that there definitely is an issue with that leopard, and that's maybe why he's been kind of pushed a little bit further north and is not going to Chitwa much these days. Anyway, we're going to try and find more signal. While we do that, let's send you back across to James.
I'm not sure how that link happened quite so fast, but there it is. Good. All right. Well, right, what we're doing, going up towards the disease clearings over here, and we've heard more zebra going wah 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 at each other. They're either having a fight or they can see a predator, so we're going to wander up towards yellow fever clearings and see what we can find over there. That is the plan as the world goes from gold to lemon coloured, and soon it's going to be burnt white, because it is going to be a very hot day indeed. Let's quickly see if we can see some buds here. Fisa, what do I carry in my bag? I carry my ash bag, which is a little sock filled with ash, so that if we encounter big game on foot we can test the direction of the wind. Then I carry my camera, and the last time I took a picture on bushwalk was in 1964, I think, but I still carry it every time, because I know that if I don't, I'll see something that I want to take a picture of. No buds on this very much living, but very much mangled marula tree. I'm looking for signs of spring everywhere. Yeah, here we go. Come over here, Sinzel. It's not the most amazing thing you're ever going to see, but it is the first bud. So the marulas will start to produce some leaves fairly soon, which will be nice. Elephants shouting off to the south. I always remember this time of the year, we were at a school that had odd holidays, and so we had August off instead of July, when most of South Africa's schools are off. And when we returned from the August holidays to school, and I went to a very old school in Johannesburg that had huge numbers of trees planted on it. We'd leave in July and it would be a winterscape. It was freezing cold, made of stone, and nothing was insulated about the place, which means that you were always cold in winter. And you'd get back in spring and all of the oak trees and plane trees and jacarandas were in full leaf, and it was just, I never forget how magical that kind of spring feeling was. And so I look forward to it hugely over here, although it tends to happen a little bit more slowly in the bush, and that's probably on account of the fact that there's less water here. Sarah, the marulas will only come back into fruit in January and February. That's in this area. Interestingly, further up north towards Phalaborwa, where it's even drier than it is here, they will fruit at Christmas time. And it's a great legend that up in that area, it's not a legend, it's a fact, that up around the Phalaborwa area, you don't even bother to try and find anybody who can do work between sort of the 10th of December and the 10th of January, because if they're old enough to drink marula beer, they are drinking marula beer, and every little street corner's got a cellar of marula beer, and people are lying about the place in a state of, well, if not drunkenness, certainly slightly stupefied by the amount of marula beer that is consumed and produced in that area. And everyone's got their favourite cellar, everyone's got their favourite brewer, and it's a time of great joy and parties between sort of December and January. But here we won't see the first ones until January, and so we'll just have to keep working through the December time. It is a good time. It's a wonderful time there in Phalaborwa. Well, I mean, you don't want to go into Phalaborwa. Phalaborwa is a settlement more lamentable than, well, most, but the area around it is quite attractive. Yes, but for the golf course, there's really nothing to recommend it at all. It's a mining town, you see, just north of here. Let's have a look here at this marula tree. President Kamucho, marula beer, you've drunk marula beer, hey? Never? You never tried it? We must get you some. Marula beer tastes a little bit like, it's fermented. It's not really a beer because you don't put yeast or anything in it like that, like you would in a normal beer. It's basically just fermented fruit. So you make it with the fruit juice. You put a bit of water in it. You put a bit of sugar. Leave it for 3 or 4 days in the sun, and in fact sometimes even less than that. And it tastes kind of like a sweet fruited. Herbert's just talking to me, saying he can still hear the alarming. Like a sweet fruited wine, basically, but it's quite thick. And it really does depend on who makes it. It can be quite sour, it can be quite sweet depending on the sugar. And this marula tree, I would suspect quite strongly, will never produce fruit, and that is because I suspect it's a male, and we do strongly suspect that elephants are able to tell the difference between female and male trees, and that they only do this as far as possible to the male trees. They often leave the female trees alone. That is not a fact, but it is a possibility, certainly something that we've observed. All right, let us continue going as the red-billed woodhoopers shout at us. Okay, we're going to start walking with a bit more speed up here and purpose, see if we can get to those zebras. Let's go back to Tristan.
Well, we're back on Djuma because, well, signal was just too much of a problem on Torchwood, so we're back on Djuma's side. But it's good news because from the dam where we thought this leopard might be, I found tracks coming back into Djuma for a male leopard. Now, whether it's the same male leopard, I'm not quite sure, but I just wanted to double check because I've lost the tracks on the road here, so I just wanted to check them out. David says they're here in front of me, so yes, there they go. So they cut off here going in this direction, so you can actually just see one just over here somewhere. There's one there's that one, and then up on the road a little bit for me, go to the right. There we go. So there's the one that goes off the road and shows the direction that this male is heading. So heading towards Buffelshoek Dam. So let's try and go and follow up there and see. Whew. Right, now I'm going to quickly loop back towards Buffelshoek Dam. While I do that, let's send you back to Bushwalk, who has, well, a Wahlberg's eagle.
There is Mrs. Wahlberg. Speak of the devly. Or Mr. One of the two. We're on Wahlberg's Eagle's Nest Road, and that is named after their nest, and there is one of the two pale-form Wahlberg's eagles that lives up in this area. How very special. This one, see, oh, wonderful, yes. First dump in South Africa. Well done. It has been a long flight. It's very nice to see you. Now I hope that you have some success this year with your babies. Last year you weren't very successful. This could be Mr. or Mrs. everyone. I don't know which one it is. Impossible to tell until you see them in the act, as it were. And this one doing a bit of preening. Probably searching, scanning the skies for his or her partner, who doesn't seem to be around here, but could be. It really is very special to see. Always makes me happy when I see them coming back. Love to know what he or she has seen on the way there and the way back. How the landscape has changed over the years. Very special. And there's a squirrel alarm calling, and that's because this Wahlberg's eagle has just, I suppose, become a parent. Marvellous. Well done, Senzo. I suppose we should continue. Excuse the road, everybody. It's just because we're trying to make up a bit of ground to where we saw or heard the zebras going wah-wah, wah-wah, wah-wah. Alright, let us go back to Tristan now. I rudely interrupted him with the Wahlberg's eagle.
Well, no problem, James. It's always nice for a Wahlbergs. James has seen them all this year. I haven't seen one yet, which is quite surprising. I suppose I haven't really been driving much. Now, the tracks went right here into this block, and I can hear a squirrel that's going crazy, two of them. And in fact, I can see them all here, and they're busy shouting their lungs out. And so the tracks went right to where these squirrels are alarm calling. So I'm just checking now to see if there isn't a sign of this leopard right here. There was a little duiker that came bounding out, and so I wonder if this leopard didn't try and hunt this duiker. Now, it's open enough that I should be able to see him, but I'm just looking very, very carefully in case. Otherwise, you know, squirrels are not the most reliable, we know that, and so they could be shouted for this duiker that came running past, but they really aren't very impressed with life at all. And I would imagine that, given that there were tracks here, it just seemed like a good bet that this leopard is right here somewhere. Maybe he was stalking that duiker and is just lying down somewhere. And now that the duiker is run, just trying to have a little look, because his tracks came from pretty much there in this direction. So I'm just checking, see if I can find a track on this little pathway here. There doesn't seem to be any sign there. Nothing on this termite mound, nothing on that termite mound over there. So Anita, Hosana will have a difficult time if he has to try and kind of deal with other leopards in his territory. It's going to not be easy for him if, let's say, Tingana did move on and Hosana then became the dominant male. He would have a tough time. He's going to have to go and deal with the likes of, you know, he's going to have to deal with the likes of Hukamuri and Ko. Now, these tracks actually cut off a little further than I first thought, so I want to actually go to where the track is and drive on the track in, because squirrels from that perspective up there, they can be seeing a leopard quite far away. So I want to just try and get onto the track itself and then cut through with the track and see, maybe I get lucky and find him. So he went up through this section here. Come on, Tingana. I think this is Tingana. I hope it's Tingana. Looks like Tingana. Track. But yes, so Hosana will have a much harder time if Tingana is no longer around here, and if Hosana is the one that's trying to defend this territory. There's a stump, we can't go there. But these squirrels alarm calling just makes me think that this leopard is moving through here and I've just missed him somewhere. So I think he might just be a little further north than where I first anticipated. I thought that we were a little closer than what we actually are, and so I want to just go slightly around here and just double check. I've been in this block hunting with Tingana a few times, so it's possible, but the guys are following a lot of tracks for leopards around Aubrey, so I mean he could have gotten that far already, and these squirrels are just shouting for the sake of shouting, which, like I say, is not uncommon for a squirrel. Now I believe baboons are also alarm calling at the dam cam. Now I hear that there's tracks for the Nkahuma Pride crossing south into Djuma from Sydney's dam area, so maybe it could be them that are around, but let's check. This seems like the right kind of area, and Tingana here would melt in. It would be very difficult to see him. What we need is an alarm call of a more reliable species, so something like an impala or no, nothing there. It's also the squirrels shouted for so long. Often if it's something like a duiker, you know, once they've seen it run off, then they generally go quite quiet. But those squirrels, I mean, they were still shouting just now, so I wonder if we just didn't check quite far enough. So this is where he must have walked. He must have angled this side. I'm pretty sure I'm going to find his tracks if he's not in this block anymore. They must come out onto Drakensberg Road. I could have sworn with those squirrel alarm calling in these tracks. Oh, Michael, difficult to say. Still a long way to go until we have a real clear idea of who, but essentially, I mean, Hukamuri has got to be one of the big contenders, as is Quarantine, although Quarantine has, you know, during that sick period of Tingana, made no real effort to come into this area. Let's be honest, we didn't see Quarantine pushing into Djuma at all, whereas we saw Hukamuri actively pushing this direction. So, you know, difficult to say. Maybe this new male that's being seen on the southern boundary. You know, it could be him that comes out and ends up being in this area. So it's difficult to say, though. I mean, there's still a long time to go, and I think if Tingana had anything to do with it, he's going to try his very best to keep them at bay for a long time still. And so maybe another male arrives, maybe Hosanna by then. Tough to kind of call it as to who exactly will end up. Alright, now these tracks don't come out here, so where has this leopard gone? Am I just driving around him and missing him? Because they should have come out onto Drakensberg, and Drakensberg is a beautiful road to look for tracks. It's really kind of soft, nice white sand, so you should pick up tracks here very, very quickly, and I'm not picking up tracks here at all, which means that our leopard is maybe still behind us, and we did just drive past him in that block area. Still no sign of any tracks. Yes, maybe Emma, maybe he's tracking us and just playing games. But he would have come out by now onto this road, and I doubt very much that he wouldn't have walked on the road itself. Okay, let's turn back quickly and go and double check. Whew, leopards are giving us a runaround this morning, but it's okay. It's good. It's good to practice this, to try and hone your tracking skills down a little bit. I have a funny feeling that squirrel saw this leopard, and this leopard is just lying low while the squirrel shouted it, and we've just driven right past it twice, which is very possible. Leopards are that way, that you can drive past them, especially in thickets like this. If you're not paying attention, it's very easily, you very quickly can lose a leopard. And it can lie down and you can drive around and not see it unless you ride on top of it, so just got to kind of pay attention a little bit. But given where we kind of came out, I would have expected us to have found tracks for this leopard already. No, nothing going up that pathway. Sarah, no saw for Hosanna yet that I've heard. We keep hearing sawing around the camp, and we 9 times out of 10 are finding Tingana, but there's once or twice there's been a saw and it's not been Tingana, so difficult to say, but no, I haven't heard him. I haven't physically seen him soar or heard him soar, to be honest. Right, now this is where I turned around earlier because I thought he would come out. Here's a big game path though. Let's just quickly check this game path. I might have missed them going over the road. But it would be very odd if this leopard just crossed the road. Robin, you say they hide so well. They do. They can be very difficult to spot, particularly if they don't want to be seen. If they are being shouted at by, like I say, a squirrel or something like that, then they don't want to be seen, then it can be very, very, very difficult to actually be able to find them. But that squirrel was not, those squirrels were not taking any chances. That whole family was out. All three of them were like shouting and looking in different directions, making sure that that leopard was not getting away from where they were. So we turned around here as well. Oh, I don't see any tracks crossing this road. Let's just check towards the central junction in case he came back towards the road by being shouted at. The squirrels are still going. I mean, there is the possibility that the hawk eagles are causing... Squirrels, why are you so unreliable? Ted, the leopards are away at spring training? Seems like it. Seems like they... Although they seem like they've been active during the night, so maybe they are in fitness to try to get their summer bodies sorted out so that they can impress the ladies. No, I don't see anything coming out. This leopard has got to be here. It's very seldom that you're going to get the leopard just disappearing on you like this, unless it's right here and we're just missing it. But it hasn't come out of any of these areas. The squirrels are still shouting. So, right, Tingana, where are you? Right, now I'm going to just double check in this area, keep having a little look, seeing what I can find, and while I do that, let's send you back across to James and see how much closer he's gotten towards where the zebra were alarm calling.
There's a kudu there walking through this woodland. We heard the thundering of hoofs. And I think we've got close to the zebras, and I think that they're having a fight. I don't think that they are seeing lions or leopards. Here is a male leopard track, but it's an old one. And there's a giraffe observing us from some distance. That's wonderful. Hello, old boy. Whatever we're looking for, he's definitely seen. But whether he'll be able to communicate to us, I'm not sure. Probably not. Beautiful bull giraffe. He's been around here for a few days now, and he's now looking towards where those zebra were, so I'm just going to keep going a little bit round here. Herbie is searching. I feel like the kudu would have alarm called if the zebras had been also shouting at, say, a predator. We're in some very nasty knobthorn and black monkey thorn thickets here. Would not want to be caught trying to extract ourselves at any speed from here. Let's just look around here and have a listen. See if that giraffe has changed the way that it's looking. No, it hasn't. I actually can't see it anymore. Sorry about that, Senzel. Oh, there it is. Yeah, it's just looking up towards here. Hello, rampaging bull elephant. That's a very nice Twitter handle you've given yourself. Rampaging bull elephant. The Kruger National Park does absolutely get cicadas. There we go. Come quickly over here, Senzo. Cicadas will arrive very shortly. And in fact, I heard a few of them, some very early ones, about 2 weeks ago. So yes, absolutely cicadas we will hear in great abundance as the heat comes. It's a whole lot of kudu actually, it's not zebra around here. We haven't found the zebra yet, there are some kudu. It's not them that's going wah 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 wah. We can't actually see the zebra. None of these chaps are alarm calling, which means that if they are running around, it's simply because they're having a bit of fun, or they're irritated with each other, having a bit of a fight. But they're females, so normally they don't fight. Could be just some youngsters feeling playful. All young mammals will engage in some kind of play behavior at one time or another. And it's a very crucial part of growing up, of course. And we often say that it makes a big difference to the formation of muscle and the solidifying of neuro pathways and that sort of thing. But I think even more importantly, what it does is sort out a dominance hierarchy. And it's so interesting to me to... There's the giraffe again. It's so interesting to me to liken it to kids playing on a playground and the inevitable kind of dominance hierarchy that forms there in the absence of any prompting or any kind of adult supervision or direction. Dominance hierarchy will emerge very early on a children's playground, and it's exactly the same with young mammals out here. Matt, I think the last time I saw an elephant on foot was probably about... I'm trying to think, when would it have been? Probably about a week ago, but that was in camp. It wasn't actually on bushwalk. We haven't been doing a lot of walking of late. Senzo, did you spike yourself with the thorn? He's got a cut. He's now sucking blood from his finger because he got himself sliced. Bad luck. Would you like to show everybody? Not. Too sore. Alright, while we patch Senzo up, let's go back across to Tristan.
Let's try to find him first though. So, sorry guys, I didn't realize we were live because I didn't have my earpiece in, but I just found on foot the carcass of a nyala, and I saw the leopard. He ran from me. I almost stood on him. I didn't see him so close, so he's here somewhere. I just need to try and find where he's gone. But nice big meal, which is good news. So exciting times. This is so epic. It's always amazing when you find these things. So we knew the squirrels had to be here. His tracks indicated that he had to be here, and so where did he go? The last time I saw him, he trotted off from me towards this stump here. So I mean, literally, like I say, when I say I almost stood on him, I was probably 5 meters from this leopard when he ran away. I didn't even see him. I was so busy trying to scan this pathway for a track because I had lost the track. And then I just kind of heard a sound and looked up in front of me, and this leopard was just staring at me and then bolted off. So the last I saw was running in this general direction. Now, at least we found the carcass, so whoever it is will come back to the carcass eventually, I think. But theoretically, if it's Tingana, he shouldn't be... There he is. Here he is. It's Tingana in front. Awesome. Yay! What a way to finish our cycle. Epic. So we've managed to find our boy, and you've got a massive meal. Well done, big boy. Hello. There we go. So our tracking has paid off for the morning. You've managed to catch yourself a massive meal. You're going to have to put that in the tree. Now, I wonder if he killed it or if he chased somebody else off of it. But it looks like his tracks come into this area and that he was hunting. And it is a big Nyala bull, and his tracks kind of walk straight into that direction, and so I don't see any other predator tracks around here. Now, Herbie says he doesn't believe he killed it, but it's possible. I mean, he's not eaten very much of it. He's just taken the stomach out, and it's very possible that he maybe killed it. Sorry, my boy, did I chase you off your meal? I didn't even see you there. I apologize. So that's the advantage of being able to get out on foot and just have a little look quickly. It allows us to be able to find these guys where they are hidden in plain sight. And I was saying to you that a leopard can seriously be difficult to see. And with that squirrel alarm calling for as long as it did, he had to be somewhere close by because his tracks didn't come out. And so eventually we just kind of went back to where our last set of his tracks, walked in on them, and it took us 5 minutes to find him, which is absolutely amazing. But I'm so happy that he's got this massive meal. I think he killed it, and I think I'm going to go with he killed it because I want him to prove everybody wrong that he's still able to hunt and doesn't steal it from others. But there's no other track for another predator here. I don't see a single track for lions. I don't see a single track for any other leopard. Also don't see any tracks for hyenas bringing that Nyala down. So he's done very well to bring a carcass of that size down if it was him, and he's going to have a tough time of it because he's going to have to try and clean that up as quick as possible today to be able to then hoist it into one of the trees. The nice thing for him is that he's got a lot of nice big marulas here that are quite gentle sloping, and so he'll be able to pick that Nyala up and put it in the tree. Sorry, my boy, did I give you a bit of a fright? You gave me a fright too. Yes, but it's okay. Well, very cool to see. That's awesome. I'm so happy we managed to find him this morning. It makes all that work kind of following those tracks for so long worth it. None of the squirrel alarm calls were real this time, and it's like what I was saying is generally when a squirrel makes a mistake, it doesn't alarm call for as long as what we heard this morning. I mean, this morning that alarm call went on and on and on and on and on and on and on, and that's generally an indication that, one, they've seen something that's irritating them, two, that it's still in the area, you know, when it lasts for that long. When it's a mobile leopard, they'll shout like that and then they'll stop. So he had to be somewhere here, and he's just lying down. But you can see how well he camouflages in this grass. If you don't drive in the exact right spot and come out a little bit and see the wintry colors, you can see only when he moves do you pick him up. Now imagine he puts his head down and completely disappears into that grass, and that's why we've basically driven past him. Where we drove just now when we were trying to look for him was basically through this gap here. This is where we drove. Now he wasn't lying here, of course, because he moved off, but we drove much around these trees like that, and then he was just sitting underneath there. But you would never know that there's a leopard in this area unless you kind of stumbled right upon him. And that's the amazing thing about leopards and their camouflage, is that they really can blend into their area incredibly well. I'm so happy though that he's got such a big meal. Now, I believe a lot of you are hoping that he did make this kill, and I hope that he does hoist it too, because that is a probably at least 3 to 4 day meal that he's got there. That Nyala is monstrous, and so that is a lot of meat that he's got to get through. And you can see he looks quite chuffed with himself, doesn't he? He's busy grooming himself out. So I think he was busy feeding when I stumbled upon him, unfortunately. And I think this kill is a lot fresher than we think. We'll obviously go back just now and have a look at the kill itself. I'm hoping that he'll walk kind of towards where his kill is. I doubt that he'll want to leave his kill too kind of out in the open and be too far away from it in case things like hyenas do come. But really good news that he's managed to get himself at least a decent meal. He's going to be one full fat kitty over the course of the day today, and even if he gets it up into the tree over the course of the next 4 days, he's going to be basically a stuffed little piggy, because there's a lot of meat to get through there. It's really quite a bit. Now, he's definitely big enough and capable enough to bring down a male Nyala. It's not that he isn't. I mean, we know Tingana in his heyday was a hunter of large animals. I mean, he's brought down some big stuff, from giraffe to wildebeest, you know, so he's not shy of taking down a big animal. And I would imagine that he probably, in all likelihood, could do it. I still think it was him. I just from the fact that there's no other tracks of other animals. Right. Now, while Tingana grooms himself out and makes sure that he gets rid of all the blood and bits all over his face, let's send you back across to James with a flighty little bird.
How cool is that? Isn't that amazing? That is the bearded woodpecker, but interestingly, that is the female bearded woodpecker, and she's not doing that for food. She's doing that as a territorial call. They find a hollow branch like that makes a nice drumming sound, and that's a territorial drumming. I've seen two doing it today, both of them females. Equally cool, of course, is the fact that Tristan managed to find Tingana, and possibly even more cool is the thought that he may have actually killed for himself, which is interesting. As soon as he found it, I told Herbert, and Herbert said, forget it, there's no ways, he definitely stole that thing. So you could easily find that there's another leopard around where Tingana is. We're all hoping, of course, that he did kill it. I'd really be quite pleased if he's actually killed it. Last time I saw him with something he'd killed, well, I'm assuming he killed it, was a little scrub hare, which he then ate in 3.5 seconds. But I haven't seen him with his own large prey for a very long time. Well, that is something of a relief. Now, we are to the southwest of yellow fever clearings, and we're looking for Tundi tracks. We found the zebras. They're definitely not shouting at any lions, and so we're now going to continue our search for zebra, not for zebra, for Tundi and Tlalamba. Let's just have a look here. This is an area, obviously, where the zebra were rolling around in the dust, I suspect. There they are. And there's some quite interesting tracks here, actually. In fact, there's some very interesting tracks. There's the zebra track. Looks like a horse, unsurprisingly. And here you can see where it got up. The front feet went onto the ground, and it stood up. Front feet first, unlike the ruminants, which stand up back foot first. Then, there are lots of impala tracks. That's what these are. These sharp ones here are impala who've been running around here. Then, through the middle of this lot, you see where my stick is pointing? You can see that there is a tail with little footprints on either side of it. I suspect that was a little lizard going across here. And then, lastly, the tracks of the white-tailed mongoose walking along the road here yesterday evening. There he goes. It does look like there was a party here, Emma. Very good party they had. Mixed species party. I hope no one drank too heavily and has woken up with a nasty headache. That would be dreadful. Alrighty, let's go back to Tingana, grooming. Great hunter that he is.
Well, indeed, I know Herbie is convinced that Tingana didn't make this kill, but like I say, I can't find any other evidence that suggests that he doesn't, unless this Nyala died of natural causes. But I mean, there's no other tracks that I can see, and especially not when I was on foot. I looked nicely to check if there was any sign of tracks, and there didn't seem to be anything. So I'm pretty sure that maybe it died of natural causes and he's just scavenged it, but I don't know. It didn't look like he was kind of going back and forth on the road sniffing, or even in the block. His tracks kind of moved towards the thicket, and then there's just this carcass was right there. I mean, I didn't get close enough to establish if he fought with that animal to bring it down, but it would be interesting. I'm interested to know whether or not it was him that indeed did it, or if it was anybody else. But if it was another predator, they somehow grew wings and flew out of here. So the only other thing can be a natural causes incident that may have happened. Now, Tingana, you're going to have to hoist your kill, buddy. Otherwise, you will not keep this evening. Central is a road that the hyenas love to walk, and so unless he's quick enough to get it up into a tree, he's going to have a struggle to be able to actually keep this carcass through the night. But that right now does not matter at all, because that is one happy, content cat. You can see his belly is full. Look at how heavy he's breathing already. He's eaten a lot of that nyala. And so I doubt that he is too worried or too stressed about what is going on. Now, what is going to be interesting with him is whether or not he is going to move from here to drink water at Torchwood, or if he's going to go to Buffelshoek Dam, because it's probably equidistant from both of those dams, and that's the closest water points, which he will need water after a big meal like this. I'm interested to see which way he actually goes. But very, very, very cool to find him. He's looking magnificent, isn't he? Lindegale, no. It was warm yesterday, but it was not that hot to give them heat stroke. I mean, the temperature yesterday was probably in the early 30s. Sometimes in this area it can get as much as the high 40s, early 50s in really extreme cases. And so, these animals are designed to cope with the heat, so I don't think it's heat related. What it could be, I mean, there could be a number of different factors here. It could have got injured fighting with another male. It could have had some sort of previous injury from another predator and was limping around and was not healthy in some way. It could, there could be lots of different things that happened. But we'll go and have a little look now, and we'll try and see just now. I'm hoping Tingana will walk back closer towards it, and then we'll try and get to see if we can find the neck area, because if we can find puncture wounds on the neck, that will indicate whether or not, Tingana brought it down or he found it dead already. But if it was dead already and he found it, I'm very surprised that hyenas did not find it first, because the hyena tracks, there are a few little hyena tracks here, but it's only 2 or 3, and they definitely would not have smelt a dead animal. They would have honed in on it very quickly last night. And so, if it did die, it must have, of natural causes, must have keeled over early this morning, and he then found it. But his tracks are fresh. He's walked around during the course of the night, and I mean, we know yesterday was in Little Gowrie, and so he's kind of walked into Torchwood, towards Torchwood Camp. It's the same leopard tracks that came all the way, so we were following them, and we thought they were quite fresh all the way back on Leadwood. So it just goes to show how far he came, and I think this Nyala was killed. Maybe that's why the baboons were shouting this morning, that they saw him around this area making that kill. You never know, it's possible. I didn't get a long enough look at the carcass because I was quite keen to find out which leopard it was, and so I kind of didn't stop there for very long at all. Just kind of brushed past it. So I'll go back and have a look and actually just see how much has been eaten and all those kind of things. But we know yesterday that Tingana was not on a kill. I mean, he was miles and miles away from here. And so, that has to have happened either during the night or early hours of this morning. But it's going to be a warm day, and so I think Tingana, even though I might have disturbed him from his kill, has actually gotten himself into a better little spot, because above him is a wattle, and the wattle has got a nice dense bit of foliage above his head there. You see that? So that's going to make the nicest shade for him during the course of today. So you can just kind of sit there where he is now and just rest up and take it very, very easy. Tingana, for such a big cat, you're a bit of a scaredy cat. Shame he ran. He was... Chris, you say Tingana did it and he looks proud too. He does look pretty happy with himself, doesn't he? I suppose he should be. It's the start of the week. He's just gone to work yesterday, did a bit of his general kind of bouncing around, sawing and scent marking, and then got the job done early in the week and found himself a really nice big meal. And it's going to be very pleasant for him just to sit in this area. And the only problem he's got is that he is on the main highway, so he's gone to a restaurant that is going to be frequented by many others during the course of the night. So he's going to have to do some work to get it up into one of the trees. Luckily, where he is probably one of the best places to be able to put food, because he's got probably, I would say, in this area, at least 7 or 8 very, very decent marulas to be able to put them in. So there's one that we parked under right now, so there's this one. Then you can see there's one behind it on the left, there's one there, and if we go to the left-hand side, there's probably the best one is the one that's just behind us on our left corner here. So that tree there, you can see it's quite a gentle slope up, and because it's going to be a heavy carcass, it's going to be easier for him to take it into a tree like that, and you can get it up. There's a nice horizontal branch for him, so that one, or the one just at the back in the distance there, would also be a good tree to take it into. So lots and lots of options when it comes to hoisting of carcasses here. He's even got himself a little termite mound to be able to lie down on. So he really has it all in this little spot. He's going to be one happy kitty. Are you not going to be happy? Why are you looking at me like you're not happy? You've got everything you can ask for, Tingana. Okay, is it sleep time now? Seems like it. Seems like he's going to get a little nappy. So, Alarma, you say he looks so adorable when he just looks up like that. He does look good, doesn't he? the thing about Tingana, he's got two looks about him. He's either got the stern stare when he's hyped up and it looks as though there's daggers coming out of his eyes, or he's got this kind of dopey cuteness where he kind of looks around as though he's this kind of a little bit dim-witted at times, and of course he isn't, but it's just that he's got this kind of dopey sort of face where he's kind of calculating what's going on and just sits around and looks. But I always love when a leopard looks up. It's you know, you kind of get the sun in their eyes and you get the color of their eyes. It's very, very cool to see them when they do that. Shame Tingana. I'm so glad he's back though in the way that he is. He's really, for us, it's been a blessing in disguise that he has come back into health. As much as it was nice to see Hukumuri for a while, it really was a horrible dynamic because it meant that Tandi and Tlalamba were always on the run. Obviously Hosana and Tamba left the area. Shidulu we got to see a little bit more because of Hukumuri's presence, but you know, to have him back up and running has meant that we've had this whole family kind of been able to spend the vast majority of their time back in Djuma, which has really been quite good. It's been a very, very, very pleasant thing to have all of them, and to see him healthy and moving around is always how you want to see an animal. You don't want to see an animal when it's, you know, that it's sick and is struggling in life. It's difficult to watch animals when they're not healthy and they're trying to battle it through. So to see him back in his best condition is really very, very good. And you know, considering his age, he looks fantastic at the moment. He really does look good. You know, he's kind of bulked up again, and he's actively marking and sawing and really kind of patrolling around, making sure everybody knows that he is back and is the dominant force in this particular area. So it's been wonderful to kind of see his resurgence back into the dominance that is Tingana at the moment. So very, very cool, and long may it last, and long may he be on Djuma. It's been so epic following him around over the last few weeks with Hosana. No, he's breathing like that because he's full. He's got a very big belly. That Nyala looks like the stomach content has been pulled out already and been eaten a little bit. So I don't think he just brought it down. If he had just brought it down, one, we would have seen the struggle, or we would have heard the struggle when we were around here. Two, that Nyala wouldn't have had that stomach open just yet. He would have, you know, it would have still been quite closed. There wasn't enough time for him to have brought it down and not to have recovered, for us to have gotten there and him to still have the stomach open. So it's more that he's just full. He's breathing heavily because his whole stomach is swollen, and that means that his lung capacity is probably half of what it could be, and so he's having to take these much deeper breaths to try and get the same amount or percentage of oxygen in his tummy. This is very, very cool. Now, funny enough, when I found him on foot, I didn't actually see the carcass at first. I just heard him run, and because I thought it was Tingana initially, I didn't really hang around at all. I just backpedaled straight away because I wanted to try and get the car and get here as quick as possible, because I know how he is on foot. He'll move and go. And then when we drove in, we found the carcass exactly where I had seen him, so then it was fine. Then I knew he wouldn't go too far. But you know, he doesn't like to be seen on foot, and he'll often slink away and run away and try and kind of get away. So it's better that we managed to... Oh, are you going to find a pillow there, Tingana? He's got a nice little branch for a pillow. Not quite that comfortable. Okay, well, while he tries to figure out his comfort and tries to get himself wedged in under that tree, let's send you back across to the bushwalk team and see what they're up to.
Well, we too are on the trail of leopard. We did find some Tandi tracks where we thought we would. We're not sure how fresh they are, and they seem to be going south now. I came up onto this termite mound because I like to climb termite mounds and have a look around and see what there is, but also because we might be able to see a carcass hanging in a tree, perhaps. We've only found her tracks leaving this area, indicating that perhaps Tlalamba is still around here. Also, tracks of a young male, we think, well, almost certainly Hosana, around here, just not sure from when exactly. But it could be that he was attracted by the smell of a kill that they had made. Naturally difficult to say. Largest termite mound in the area. I mean, this can't be far off. It starts over here. I mean, that's massive. I mean, look at the size of it. It starts where we are standing over here. But that's about as big as they get here. I mean, that's probably about, what's that, 12 feet high? More than that? I'm just listening to a fork-tailed drongo above our heads. Okay, let's carry on along here. It was very high up, Aramoa, very high up indeed. Brent once found a really enormous one. Brent found a really enormous one on Arathusa. Herbert's just laughing at these fork-tailed drongos. I'm trying to get what they are attempting to mimic. That's not their normal call. They're trying to mimic something. I can't tell you what it is, that I don't know. They're very poor mimics. Very tone-deaf singers. They're okay at the pearl-spotted owl, but the rest they're really poor at. Oh, termites vacate their mounds when they get sick and tired of them. You know, they like to move on. It's exactly the same as the inner cities of some places becoming derelict and becoming full of, you know, distasteful sorts, the kinds of people you don't want around, and so the residents leave and squatters come in. In this, you know, in the case of termite mounds, you'll find squatters in the form of ants. You might find them gangs of ants, really. Warthogs, hyenas, wild dogs, that sort of things, and the termites being born of sort of high social standing, shall we say. They like to move out then when the less desirable elements move into their termite mounds. That is, of course, rubbish. The only reason the termite mounds go dormant is when the queen dies. She no longer produces any eggs, obviously, because she's dead, and eventually the workers and soldiers, if she isn't replaced, die off themselves and the mound becomes dormant. That's the only reason for them to leave their mounds. No, I don't think so, Matt and Louise. Are you asking if that was the squeak of the rollers? No, I don't think so. I don't know what that was. So now, if we were looking for a leopard, which we are, of course, we're into some pretty thick bush, which means we need to be a little bit careful. Of course, Herbert has gone out in front of us, so we don't have to be that careful. But we just need to be a little bit careful, and we'd be looking under these bushes, much like, I suppose, you've seen with the Nyala lying under its bush there with Tingana. You'd find a carcass stashed under a bush here or up in a tree. And then you would feel that tremendous sense of elation that makes this frustrating process of tracking so worth it. Something just jumped into the bush here. I'm pretty sure it's a francolin. Let's go back to Tingana.
Well, our leopard is like a little pork sausage, so he really is in full sausage mode this morning. It was quite funny. He was lying the opposite way and the branch was just irritating him too much, so he sat up and then he literally just pivoted on his fat tummy. He kind of lifted his legs, and the roundness of his tummy meant that he just fell over to the side, and then that is now how you see him currently. He is now reclining as well as he possibly could in this long grass, and when he's lying like that, you can see why it's difficult to spot these guys. They really are not the easiest of animals to find when they want to be, and you can imagine if he didn't want to be seen and didn't have this carcass, how tricky it would be to actually see him if he decides he's just going to kind of slink away or just lie flat in this grass itself. And even, you know, now he's kind of lying on his side, so we can see his sort of whiteness of his tummy, but if he's on his tummy and he kind of puts his head down, you'll just get that spotted dark coloration on the back, and it would be very, very difficult to actually spot him in this. It's just amazing, these creatures. No wonder they're so shy and elusive and difficult to find. So Leslie, I mean, we don't know exactly how old he is. Unfortunately, he didn't come from an area where we knew what his lineage was. And it's not like Hosanna where we know the day he was born. So we think that he's around 12 years old. That's what we kind of roughly guess, given his age. I've been thinking about it, though, quite a bit, and I went back and looked at a whole bunch of photos of Tingana when he first arrived back in 2011. And he was not a very big leopard at that point, and actually he looked fairly young. So I wonder if he's not maybe closer between, I would guess closer to 11 than he is 12, but somewhere there between 11 and 12 would be my kind of rough estimate, which is a really good innings for a male leopard. And that's why when he got ill earlier in the year, it was kind of thought that that's going to be the end of it. Unfortunately, he's getting that age and he's going to lose condition, and younger males are going to push him out, and he's going to become much like Mbula became, this nomadic individual. But somehow he's managed to bounce back. He's back in full form now, in full fitness, and looking as healthy as he's ever looked, so he's really looking good. He's aged quite a bit. His ears are a bit more tatty, and kind of face has aged a bit. He's looking, otherwise the rest of his body is in prime condition. And so the harsh winter months that make it easier for these animals has really done well for Tingana. Whatever it was that happened to him looks like it's thankfully kind of worked out of his system, and he's been able to survive. But it just goes to show you the strength of these animals and the endurance of them. For him to have gone through the period that he did, where he was in such weak condition, that he was able to somehow eke out an existence and slowly but surely kind of scavenge his way, fight his way towards, getting some semblance of food, is pretty amazing. It's a testament to how resourceful a leopard can be in its quest for survival. He fed off all kinds of things just to try and keep that nutrients in for long enough that he could actually kind of bounce back. I would love to know what ailed him, what went on, whether he ate something that's kind of really kind of intoxicated him in some way. Did he pick up some sort of disease? Was there a kidney issue, liver issue? I don't know. It's an interesting one. I would really kind of like to know what happened and why he bounced back and what caused him to bounce back. But either way, I'm happy that he did, as I'm sure many of you are as well. But that is one sleepy kitty. And so what I think I'm going to do is I might go and inspect the carcass quickly while he's sleeping. Let's go and have a little look, see what the carcass looks like and how it is. We'll come back to him just now. There's also another vehicle that wants to come in here, and there really isn't much space to view him bar where we parked. So we'll do a carcass inspection for a little bit while they go into that spot just now. Ooh, Mrs. Zero, that's a difficult one. There's so many. I think some of my favorite memories of Tingana are more recent ones, to be honest, since he's been hanging around with his boys. So I think one of my favorites is definitely that sighting I had of him and Hosanna and Tamba, the three of them, my three kind of favorite males, all in one sighting together and all being very relaxed with one another. It was really quite cool to have them all like that. So that's definitely the sort of probably one of my biggest highlights. And then what else? The time he took down the giraffe, that was an incredible display of power when he brought down that young giraffe. And then of course he not only did he bring down the young giraffe, but he was also mating with a female at the same time. So he had a really kind of, I don't know, he's managed to somehow sort himself out quite well with all of that. Now I'm trying to find the carcass again. Oh, it's there, it's under that tree. I'm just trying to work out which tree it was under. So let's kind of go forward here and see how big this Nyala really is and how much food he's eaten. That is a big kill. It is not small by any stretch of the imagination, but I think it must have been him. I mean, I can't think of anything else. But there you go. You can see it's not a fully grown male. It's a young male that he's managed to bring down. And there's definitely both front legs are there, both back legs. Typical leopard pattern, the way that he's eaten the back and the rump area. That's typical. So if it was wild dogs, it would look very different. We saw that carcass that Tundi had, how kind of messed that carcass was and how kind of it had been ripped in all directions. So to me, this looks very leopardy the way it's been eaten. It doesn't look like, there's a bit of intestine, so if you're a bit squeamish, I'm sorry about that. But that's what kind of looks like. Now I want to just try another angle. No, we're not going to be able to actually get through there. I thought I was going to try to just get around because I wanted to see the size of the horns. Either way, that is a monstrous meal for a leopard. It's a seriously big meal that he's going to have, and he's going to have a lot of work to try and kind of finish that up, that's for sure. But he should be able to hoist that. He's got the stomach out, which is a huge part of it, and he's safely tucked it in a fairly decent thicket that he should keep away things like tawny eagles and battalier eagles and even vultures. So I think he'll be alright. I think he's going to keep this one. Hopefully he will. Hopefully he's got the power in him to be able to drag it. And like I say, that marula tree that I showed you just now would definitely be the right one. But I'm of the firm belief that he killed this. I don't think this was killed by something else. I think that this is Tingana all the way. You know, the way that, like I say, the way that it's been eaten is just so typical of a leopard. The stomach's been hollowed out, and it's eaten from the tail rump area, kind of towards the sort of back legs, and that is a typical leopard maneuver. And it's not beyond the realm of possibility. I know Herbie thinks that he didn't kill it, but you know, if you think of Tamba being able to bring down a female kudu, this is a smaller animal than that, and Tingana is a way bigger animal than Tamba. So, you know, it's very possible. But it might have been injured Nyala, sure, but it doesn't look like it. And there's no ways we're going to be able to see the neck, I'm afraid, to actually see if there's any bite marks on the neck. It's too kind of deep in the bush. He's really kind of dragged it in there. And I'm just trying to see if there was actually a drag mark or where he actually kind of killed it. It looks like it was killed somewhere where we are here. I can see a lot of disturbance on the ground. In fact, just to my right-hand side here, which is quite difficult to see, I'm going to try and lean a little bit, but this section here, there's actually some scrape marks. You see there? There's a scrape there. All over here is a disturbance. So this is where I think this Nyala struggled for its life with Tingana. I think that's where he must have brought it down and killed it, but there was a lot of disturbance. It's quite close to the vehicle, but there is some areas that I can see where you can actually see where the hooves have dug in, and there's bits of fur all over the place here. So I think he must have stalked it that way and killed it right where I'm standing, and then just dragged it a little way into here, because it's not a very big drag mark at all, and that goes into that area. Really, I mean, a carcass like this is heavy. It's not going to be an easy animal to hoist at all. And so what he's done is he's trying to lighten it. He's trying to eat in as much as he can, pull the stomach out, pull all the stuff that's, you know, very difficult and to kind of take up an excess weight that he doesn't need to worry about, get rid of all that grass that's inside there, eat a little bit, try and digest it through the day, and then take it up. So, I mean, I don't think it's too heavy for him now. I think he's done enough prep work to get it up there. Initially, when it was first killed, maybe. You know, he's getting older now. It takes a lot of power to drag not only your 90-kilogram body, but also another body that weighs over 100 kilograms up into a tree. It's, you know, that's like 400 pounds that he's trying to take up into a tree. It's a serious amount of power. I mean, I don't know if you've ever put 400 pounds on your back. Try and work out how heavy that is, or whatever your body weight is. Try and double that and put it on, and then try and climb up a hill. It's not easy at all. And so, you know, it might be that it was a little heavy to start with, but because he killed it early hours of the morning, no hyenas around, it's allowed him to feed, it's allowed him to pull it in under a thicket, and he can digest during the day today, which will make him lighter, and then he can grab this and try and get it up into a tree itself. I hope that that's what he's going to do. He's experienced enough to know that, and he's definitely powerful enough to put a carcass of this size up into a tree itself. Now, I was hoping when we came towards the carcass, he was actually going to move in this direction and come and just check out his carcass, but I think he's a sleepy cat now and is probably having a little bit of a nap. Right, now, let's send you back across to James, who I believe is checking out his breakfast of his own.
Kudu sitting on a termite mound over there. Unfortunately, it has disappeared. It's not alarm calling, which means that it can't see the leopard. So I'll give you an update on the tracks. What the tracks have done is they've gone down this dry riverbed here. We didn't think that they were very fresh. We came back out onto the road. We found them again, and they're going down towards that area. We'll just see what we can find. You know, it's best not to get too focused on the outcome in these things, otherwise one can become very frustrated. And so we should continue looking for our little signs of spring. So we found the buds on the marula tree, and of course the presence of the Wahlberg's eagles. Dan, yes, it is because I'm absolutely terrified of snakes. That's why we don't see snakes. I see them often, and then I curl up into a ball like this until they go away. And then I get up again and carry on going. So that's what you should do when you see a snake out here, because almost always they will attack you and bite you in the face. Dan, the reason we don't see snakes out here is because snakes are very afraid of us. It's not, I mean, I would be afraid if I came across a mamba at 2 feet or 3 feet, but otherwise, no, snakes don't worry me at all out here. They would if I got very close to them and I'd cornered them by mistake, but no, we don't see a huge number of snakes here simply because snakes are afraid of us. There are a large number of snakes here, so I wouldn't worry about there being no snakes here, and we often see their tracks, but we very seldom actually see them. I would say that we see more leopards than we do snakes. And there's no question that there are far more snakes than there are leopards here. Let's go across this little area here, I think, Senzo. No signs of spring there. That is an evergreen bush called Mystroxylon aethiopicum. Kendall, my favourite thing about bushwalk, I don't know. I mean, it's being on foot with big animals, really. I mean, being on foot with an elephant or a lion or a leopard is a real highlight, and it's a real kind of, it's a wilderness connection moment, as I like to describe it. And then I like it in summer because there are lots of little things to talk about, lots of little things to find, insects and arachnids. And I guess it's the fact that it allows you the ability to see all the small detail, which you just can't do if you are driving. I just heard a noise. It was Herbert yawning loudly. He's getting a bit frustrated. Let's look over here. This is a black monkey thorn, Senegalia burkii. Some very early leaves there, some of which are turning yellow already because they're a bit early and so there isn't enough water to sustain them. It's quite nice. A nice little sign of spring. Continue along here. Pippin, I haven't stepped on a puff adder, I've stepped on a night adder. It happened actually not here, but in the Eastern Cape, and it happened fairly recently. My sister was getting married, and that's got nothing to do with the story, except that we happened to be at this hired house on the Eastern Cape coast, where we were kind of setting things up so the family could move in for the weekend before the great event. And my father and I were there, and he was unlocking doors, and I was checking around the side of the house, and I came around the side of a house. I opened a garden gate and stepped through without looking, and I stepped straight onto a night adder. And I then shot 6 feet into the air, spun around 4 times, landed, and jumped again another 10 meters forward. So it really does inspire the most tremendous feats of athleticism to stand on a snake. And then I did this. I went, and my father said, "What is wrong? What is wrong?" And I said, "I stood on a snake, I did." And the snake did not strike. All it did was it went and then tried to run away. Well, run as best a snake can. And that poor little snake, we found about 5 or 6 times during the evening. Sharon, no, I'm not really afraid of spiders. I mean, I'd obviously don't want to be bitten by a spider, and a black widow button spider biting me would be very unpleasant. But no, I'm not afraid of being bitten by one. I mean, the chances of my being run over in the street are much higher than of my being bitten by a black widow spider, or indeed any other kind of spider. We don't have an enormous number of poisonous creatures or venomous creatures out here. Unaiona. Crossed. They've gone south towards Treehouse Dam, so we'll go that way. Oh, look at this tree. Coming into full bud now. Another black monkey thorn. Senegalia burkii. You can see why it's called the black monkey thorn. It's because the thorns are, in fact, black. Can you see they're black? Sensum? Yes, good. Right, on that note, we are going to continue with our frustrating search while you go back to the already completed search.
Well, hopefully you guys will get some luck at some point. I know Herbie gets very frustrated when he tries to track Thandi and Tlalamba and they loop around and change directions. Herbie likes to be on top of his game and finding the cats as quick as he can. And so, you know, I hope that he will find them. He's put in a lot of work on tracks for Thandi and Tlalamba of late. And so it would be nice if he gets some reward for his work that he's done. Now, Tingana, as you can see, is, well, not fazed by anything right now. There's another car that's joining us, and he's not even looking up at this stage at the car coming in at all. He's decided that it is time to sleep. It's getting quite warm now as well, so I'm pretty sure he's just going to have a nice nap and try and kind of get that belly down as much as possible before he goes and fills it up again. He's just going to be a very, very happy, content cat through the day, and luckily it's quite late in the morning now, so the chances of hyenas coming across this kill anytime soon is pretty slim. In fact, highly doubt that the hyena would come anywhere near this carcass over the next couple of hours. It will maybe be around sunset. He's going to have to start worrying once again, but until then, I think he's going to have a very pleasant day. If you're a leopard, it's like basically going to the best restaurant, getting the nicest food, and then all you have to do is sleep the whole day. You don't have anything else to do, so he's going to have a fine time of it as he kind of spends his day resting. Now, he is a cat that does know how to go to sleep, and to sleep very well. He's very, very good at having the best naps that he possibly can, and really kind of getting himself as flat as possible before resting. So he's in full sausage mode at the moment, big fat tummy, and now lying in a shady spot, and there's a nice little cool breeze, so that's going to help with him being more comfortable, because one thing about a leopard when it eats a lot is that it gets uncomfy, and you must see them in summer. They really struggle. It's quite funny actually to watch any of the big cats when they're full in summer, because they really can just see that they just can't get comfortable anywhere. They try their luck, they try and lie in shade, lots of panting, lots of heavy breathing. They really kind of struggle to kind of keep their composure during that period. But you've earned a good nap, Tingana. You definitely have done a lot of work this week. He's been a busy boy, patrolling all over the place. So Romit, no, it's about the same as Mvula's reign. It's interesting because obviously Mvula, he kind of dominated further south of Djuma for a while, and then he started to move into Djuma when Mafufenyan and Jordan went. Then he kind of came in, so he still reigned for a long time. I mean, he was from about 5 years old until about 11, somewhere there. He reigned for, which is a long time. So I suppose Tingana is slightly more than that, but he's done a good stint. Any time a male leopard can do a 7-year shift as a dominant male, they've done very, very well. So, you know, they've all kind of, the last few lineages from this area in terms of the males have done exceedingly well. You know, Mafufenyan was around for a very long time. Tyson in the west was around for a long time. Now Tingana, Mvula, who else have we had over the years? Just trying to think. The only one that didn't last for very long, or two that didn't last for very long, was Lomula. So he was a leopard that was south of Djuma, that came onto Djuma once or twice when mating with Kwatile. And he, unfortunately, no one knows exactly what happened to him, but the last time he was seen, Anderson stole a warthog from him and was chasing him south into Londolozi. And then Anderson's dad was Imsachwen, which was a big male leopard, massive male leopard, much like Anderson, that used to also be seen on the Mala Mala, kind of Hofmann's vessels boundary, so south of Djuma as well. And he also, both of them only had short tenures, about 2-3 years as dominant individuals and then, you know, disappeared. So sometimes it's short, but we've been very lucky that on the Duma area that there's been these kind of long stints that have been put in by the male leopards of the last few generations, and hopefully it will continue. Hopefully the next one will be Hosanna, and he'll be able to put in a monstrous kind of amount. Imagine if he gets dominant at 3.5 years old and lives to 10-year shift as a dominant male leopard. Would be quite something. So that's what we need to hope for. I'd be very happy if Hosanna was a dominant male around here. If we could carry on seeing him and seeing his kind of progress through life, it would be amazing. Now, are you going to go to your kill, Tingana? Have you just woken up? It always amazes me how a cat can go from deep sleep like that to awake and alert in the space of 1 second. Teresa, I was just saying to David, I wonder if Hosanna will find this and come and join his dad. Yeah, I mean, he won't be able to steal it. Tingana most definitely will keep it for himself. And I mean, we saw that with the the Nyala carcass that Hosanna had recently, not too far from here. Tingana, once he came in, Hosanna had no chance getting anywhere near it. In fact, Tingana literally just slept on that kill when he wasn't eating. So I don't think Hosanna will be able to steal it, but will he appear here? Possibly. It's quite far to the east. We haven't seen Hosanna move here yet, but it's very possible he might have decided to walk into this area and come and check out what's going on. And it's from where he had that kill with Tingana the other day, so that central Nyala Road area. I would say as the crow flies, it's probably about 500 meters from here, so maybe more, maybe 600-700 meters from where that is. So I suppose it's possible that he could find it. It will depend on whether or not hyenas find this, whether or not vultures, birds of prey arrive in this area. Those will sometimes bring about, you know, Hosanna being curious and moving around. But we just have never found his tracks moving in this direction over the course of the last few weeks. He seems to kind of go towards Nyala Road and up to Buffelshoek Dam, and that's it. The only thing that he might bring him here is if he goes and drinks at Buffelshoek Dam, smells Tingana or sees Tingana, and then follows him along all the way back to this area. But he's yawning a little bit, which is good news. It might mean that he's going to go to his kill, which will be cool if he does go to there. It's not an easy visual on the kill, as we know, but it'll just be nice to see him kind of walking in that direction. But you can see how much his teeth are yellow in comparison to Hosanna's. We've been seeing Hosanna yawn quite a bit, and his teeth are far whiter than what Tingana's are. Lynn, what does Tingana mean? Well, Tingana is a word in this area that means shy, and that's because when Tingana first came here, he was a very, very shy animal. He did not allow you to get very close to him at all. I remember the first sighting I had of him was on Elephant Plains airstrip, and he just had his head down in the grass trying to hide away, and my tracker caught the glint of his eye and spotted him. And he was just sitting there trying to keep as flat as possible, and then once the spotlight hit him, he wanted to move so badly. You could see he was trying to think about slinking, but there was a herd of impala that was close by that he was wanting to hunt as well. So he kind of just sat there wide-eyed staring at these impala, thinking, should I make a break for it? And in the end just sat for a while, and it was actually quite valuable because we spent a good 45 minutes with him, and that was the kind of start of the sightings that we had. And then we used to find him a lot in an area called Big Dam, and you could park about 100 meters from him and he would be okay, but otherwise he used to just walk, run, do whatever. Even if he was mating with the females, he used to just stop mid-mating and run away if you arrived. So, you know, he was very shy to start with, and that's why he ended up getting that name and why he was called Tingana. And since then, things have changed. He's now become one of the most relaxed leopards, and it just goes to show you that a habituation of a leopard is possible if you, if you are able to spend time around them and to actively spend, quality hours tracking, looking, and giving them the space that they need. I'm hoping he's going to get up and go. It looks like he's grooming again. I mean, often when leopards groom like this. Romets, no, I didn't even know an unknown female was seen on Mala Mala yesterday. Yesterday was a very busy day, so I didn't get much time to go through things, but I did not see a female being seen. I have no idea. I'll try to find out, try to see who it was, but I didn't hear of anything. Normally when there's an unknown leopard we have a group for the rangers here in the Sabi Sands, and the guys post, if they don't know a leopard, they post a photo on that group, and they didn't see anything yesterday, so I'm surprised that there's no one has asked anything. Was there any photos, or did they just say an unknown female? I wonder if an unknown female could be anybody. It could come from Londolozi side, could have come from the southern side, could have come from the north up here. I mean, the only leopard I think that could probably go into Mala Mala from here could either be Nkanyeni or Kuchava. Those two possibly could go into Mala Mala. But they would know Kuchava, they've seen her before, so I don't think it would be her. Anyway, we'll sit with Tingana for a while longer. He's at least awake now. I'm hoping he's going to walk to his carcass. Now, Ruben, how big can a leopard's territory get? Well, oh, bless you, Tingana. Did you get some dust up your nose? Yes, look at that beautiful eyes. So, Ruben, it depends on a lot of things. But basically, it depends on how many leopards are around, really, and what prey density you've got and water availability. And that will kind of then give you an idea of how many leopards and how big their territories can be. So here in the Sabi Sands, because of the density of leopard that we've got, very, very small territories. So a male like this, he'll probably have a territory of about 5,000 to 6,000 hectares, which is not very much at all. Whereas a leopard in the Kalahari Desert, the males there can have territories of about 100,000 hectares. So, you know, it's over 10 times the size of what Tingana is holding. And the reason for that is because there's very few females, very few other males, and so the territory just expands until they meet resistance. Here, because of the high competition and high density, they kind of can only hold these small territories. Also, there's a lot of food and a lot of water here, which means that they can survive in much smaller pockets than what they can do in somewhere like the Kalahari Desert. So it's very random with the leopard. I think the biggest territory that has been recorded for a leopard is something like 160 or 180,000 hectares. It is crazy. I mean, that's madness. There was also a leopard that was once collared, I think it was in Umkhuze or Umfolozi, one of those two, which is a park in the KwaZulu-Natal. And that leopard then eventually started to walk all the way through. It walked all the way to the Kruger National Park from that park, and then went up through the Kruger into Mozambique. Mozambique turned back into the Kruger and came all the way back down to Mfolozi, which is a huge, huge area. Now, it wasn't a dominant individual, but it was a roaming, nomadic young male, and it's just amazing, actually, to see. Yeah, very, very, very cool to see. So, you know, it will be quite interesting to kind of know whether that male actually set up a territory that was large, or it just ended up walking. Right, while we watch Tingana sleep and nap, let's send you back across to James, who's finally found his zebra.
Yeah, well, here are the zebra, quite possibly the same ones that have been shouting all morning. And they've come down to Treehouse Dam, which is sort of a pea-green soup colour. We've also got some leopard tracks here, and we think they are perhaps the tracks of Hosana, the male leopard, but maybe they were the sort of beginnings of the tracks that Tristan started following earlier this morning. And I'll show them to you once you've had a good look at the zebras, which are a little bit standing in consternation because Herbert has split up from us, and he's now having a look at the other side of the waterhole. They are not particularly brave when it comes to human beings, but very nice to see them here. And I'm sure that you can feel the wind blowing. Certainly you can hear it blowing. And as Tristan said, he thought a cold front was coming in. I'm not sure if we'll get the full force of it, but certainly the wind blowing in is quite chilly. Let's have a quick look at these tracks here. There they are. A male leopard track. I still don't think I can tell the difference between Hosana and Tingana, and certainly Herbie is not quite sure whether these are Tingana or Hosanas. There we go, very fresh. You can see that they're hardly disturbed, even though there's been a wind blowing. And then the last thing we'll show you here, of course, is the magnificent example of humanity that is Herbert Causer, walking across the treehouse dam wall to see if he can spot any further tracks over there. There he is. Marvellous. Good. Now he's going that way. We're going to go down here and see if we can find where the tracks went after. I'm pretty sure this leopard had a drink. There the tracks go. Down they come. There we are. There is an alarm calling. That's interesting. There's an alarm calling starling over there, making a horrible noise. Quack, 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 quack. Let's see if we don't find the tracks going that way. Papa, yes, zebras can be habituated. They are difficult to habituate. They're not very nice, and in fact they cause more injuries to zookeepers around the world than do, say, even tigers. So they are pretty vicious, but they can sort of be habituated. Not to the same way that a horse can. I mean, that's called domesticated. I don't see his tracks here. Let's just walk slowly along this way. I suspect she would have had a drink there. I'm just wondering if he didn't head off towards one of his favourite termite mounds in this direction here. Tina, it depends really on if or when Tingana vacated. So if Tingana was to drop dead today, which I don't think he will, given that he's got a nice kill with him, it's very unlikely that Hosanna would even know how to start taking a territory. If, however, Tingana dropped dead a year from now, then I suppose, even though it would be very young, it's possible that Hosanna could take this territory if no other big male came in and said, "Oi, what are you doing here, young buck? Get out." But in theory, sort of 3.5, I guess, would probably be around the earliest. Now, this is where the alarm calls were coming from. Let's slowly walk along. We're not far. I just want to check under this bush here. Herbie's looking the other side of the dam wall. I don't see any tracks, but that's not to say there aren't any. Carol, Treehouse Dam's almost a puddle now, so it's shrunk substantially. From its fullest point, I'd say almost 70%. I think that was a bird, not Herbert. Herbert's whistling at us. Is he saying come? Okay, alright, I'm just going to look under this bush and then we'll go that way. I think maybe they were nesting in this bush, or in this tree, and maybe that's why there was the great shouting of starlings. It is definitely a nesting site, lots of hollows in it. And there's a duiker. There's definitely no leopard here. So this is the tree that they were shouting from, and you can see there are lots of holes in it, and of course starlings are hole nesting birds, and you'd expect them to start nesting in those holes fairly soon as the summer comes towards us. Good. Let's go back to Tristan and his leopard while we head off this way with Herberto.
Well, good luck, James. I hear Herbie on the radio saying that he's got tracks for male and female leopard at Treehouse Dam, so I wonder who that could be, and maybe Hosanna and Tundi busy moving around in that area. Hopefully they find him. And we were at Treehouse early this morning, and there was no sign of anything that I saw. Of course, I could have missed it at that stage. We still had the spotlight out, so it's very possible that we missed some tracks. And if we did, I'm sorry, Herbie, I do apologize. But Tingana is unfortunately still very, very sleepy. I don't think he's going to move too much. I had some hope just now when he was kind of looking up into the sky and was grooming. I thought, well, maybe, just maybe, he's going to just walk and wander over to his kill. And just to go and double check and make sure everything's okay, because he hasn't been there since, we walked into him. And so I was hoping that he would, but he's, I think, just too content at the moment. He's got such a nice little shady spot there, and there's full belly, that there's really no need for him to go back to the carcass to go and kind of see what's going on. So I think, we'll have to just wait for a little bit and see if he does. But I would imagine that this afternoon he will be a busy cat and will, kind of go towards the carcass at around sunset and hopefully hoist it up into the tree itself. So, Sammy Jane, you say that you were asking about Tingana, and did he indeed kill a female leopard, and who she was, and did he eat her? So, yes, he killed a female leopard. Her name was Shaluva, and he did eat a portion of her. Well, most of her, to be honest. Not very much left of it. Now, the story is one that kind of got Tingana a bad name for quite a while, and everyone kind of thought he was this horrible leopard that just goes around killing others. And there's a lot of, I think, to be said for that sighting that probably went unnoticed. We don't know a lot of what happened. No one was kind of there following him in the preceding sort of period of that. And so I have a feeling that I know that she was mating with another male prior to that. She was mating with Mvula, and then she came across him. So I think that she smelt probably a lot like a male. You might find that he's scent marked close by, and so Tingana was kind of really amped up at that point, and then he just found this leopard and attacked her, and before he knew it was a female, and probably just unfortunately got her in a really bad place that he killed her quite quickly rather than actually realizing it was a female. And the sort of weight category between a female and a male, it's possible if a male attacks a female, it's not going to last very long because his power is just so much more. And so I think that's what happened. And then once she was dead, well, then it's just like any other bit of meat, is that they do eat them. You see it with lions, you see it with hyenas eating other predators. They will consume their own, and even females with cubs, they will eat their cubs sometimes. So, it just depends on... Where is there a car coming? Yes, there's a car coming. It just depends on the situation. Are you upset now? There's a car coming. And that? Maybe he's a one-car cat this morning. It's the first time I've ever seen Tingana growl when a car is on its way in. I can see the car coming now. It's about to start. You'll start hear it bashing through the bushes. But it's the first time I've ever seen him growl like that. Shame, boy. Did I make you grumpy by finding you on foot? I'm sorry. We would never have found you otherwise, because you didn't exactly put your carcass in a nice, easy place to spot you or stand up, did you? No. But he seems to be okay now. Now he's decided he's not going to growl at us anymore. I'm quite interested to see when the car comes. Reggie, the chances of him coming to the carcass now? 0, I would imagine. I can't say 0, but there's maybe a 5% chance. It's late in the morning now, and so in all likelihood, it's going to be a sleepy, affair for all of our predators. Remember, hyenas spend a vast majority of their night moving around and walking around and trying to find food. And so as soon as the sun comes up, it starts to get warm. Hyenas are down and they're sleeping and just wait until the night time again. So I don't think, any hyenas arrive, unless we get a mass amount of vultures that arrive here. The hyenas might then start coming in to come and investigate, but the way that he's tucked that in, I don't think we'll see that many vultures coming down into this area. I'm pretty sure that Tingana will be able to keep it for now. But this evening, definitely, there will definitely be hyenas here by tonight. It's on, like I say, one of the main routes that the hyenas walk. Central is a road that, is walked a lot, and so pretty sure that they will pick this up. And I just hope that he gets it into a tree before they arrive, because if he doesn't, he's going to lose his kill very, very quickly from all of the hyenas that will come. And it's a big carcass, so he's not going to be able to just pick it up and run off into a tree in 2 seconds. He's going to need to, put it up long before hyenas actually find him, because he's going to have to struggle to put that thing up. So he's going to need to do kind of like what Tundi did the other day, is in early afternoon pick it up and just drag it towards the nearest tree and then pull it up. So we'll see how it goes. I mean, obviously I'm going to be out of here this afternoon, but James, I'm sure, will come into this area to come and see what's going on and try and figure out what's happening. Pretty sure that he's not going to be going anywhere during the course of today. I think he's most definitely going to be staying here, and it'll be interesting to see what plays out here. I wouldn't be surprised that if he does hoist this kill, that Tundi, Tlalamba, and possibly even Hosanna might even arrive at this carcass at some point over the course of the next few days, and it would be nice if they did. It would be always nice when you get these family affairs around a kill. Andrea, it depends on the strength of the wind, to be honest. So, I mean, the other day, Tingana basically smelt Hosanna's kill from about 1 kilometer away, which is quite something. I didn't think he would be able to pick it up, but he most definitely did, and he was able to smell it and be able to work out very quickly where it was, and he walked straight there. So, you know, it depends on the strength of the wind. That day the wind was blowing quite steadily, and today with the wind that's not so kind of strong, maybe not nearly as much as that, maybe half that distance. So it's always dependent on conditions more than anything else. Wind factors, whether it's swirling, whether it's straight from a direction, the topography of the land, how the leopard is positioned when the wind is blowing. So all of those kind of things will dictate whether or not they can smell and see what's going on, and basically follow their nose from there. Obviously if they get onto a scent where an animal's been dragged, then it's very easy for them. They can smell it from a long way away. They'll pick that up from kilometers, I'd say. But there's very few animals that are going to drag a carcass from 1 kilometer, you know, or more than, to try and kind of hide it. Most of the time leopards just drag a short little distance, so you'll probably pick it up just from the scent in the air, let alone the drag scent. But suffice it to say that their sense of smell is really quite something. Good. Well, like I say, we'll just continue with our morning. I'm quite happy sitting with Tingana. I really enjoy his presence. There are some other vehicles that do want to come here, so we might have to leave him before the end of drive. I'm hoping not, but we'll see how that goes. And while we do that, let's send you back across to the bushwalk team and see, on a scale of 1 to 10, how frustrated they are.
Well, frustrated and empowered, well, not empowered, inspired. But we've got tracks here of male, female and cub. And they're going up and down. They've gone towards the dam, they've turned round. Herbert's got some going further now towards this way. Now, of course, I could just be making all of this up, but really that is what's happening. And so we're kind of backtracking to see if perhaps they didn't have a kill here, and maybe they went and had a drink. Why all three of them together, though, I'm not sure. Let's just keep going along here. The mystery might be solved by a carcass hanging in a tree. That would be very useful. Can't see anything though, naturally. It's one of those days when there seems to be so much promise and so little delivery. Plenty of hyena tracks as well. Yes, it does feel like we're crawling. That's because that is exactly what Senzo is doing. He's giving you the leopard's eye view of the world. I'm sort of getting that feeling that I'm being watched. In the meantime, let's have a look at the chin spot Batiste over there, sitting on the top of the tree. See at the top there? This is advanced camera work for the morning, especially in the wind. It's very difficult, but Senzo will manage. It's just here. It's a chin spot Batiste. Male. Sans the chin spot, of course. Yeah, Herbie says he's got the tracks crossing the other way. wonder if they are not in this little riverbed that runs from Treehouse Dam. Certainly where Hosana used to like to hang out when he was a youngster. Pippin, yes, there are indeed black-collared barbets here that go to Puddly, to Puddly, to Puddly, to Puddly. There are some here. Again, you'll hear them in the summer. You won't hear them now. We're going towards the summer, but we sure ain't there just yet. This is very frustrating, I must say. No, not yet, Carol. It's not yet standing up on the back of my neck. I'm not sure that we're being watched. I feel like we're a little bit away from figuring this mystery out. Let's check the road here. Luckily leopards like to use roads, much as we do. Here are tracks of the female going back towards the dam. They really look very fresh. You see over here. Again, it's a windy day, and so you would expect the wind to obliterate them if they weren't, you know, from very recently. And I think Tristan drove this road actually very early on this morning, which means these things are on top of his tracks. Herbie did have some other tracks going that way. Those ones are going towards the dam. Alright, we're going to have one final guess at what's going on here. Let's go back to Tristan now. Oh, there's one going this way.
Well, good luck, James. Hang on. Sure, I just heard a squirrel alarm call again. No, I was mistaken. There's a steenbok though. I've got squirrel syndrome of my own. Yes, there is a squirrel alarm calling. Oh, I'm not crazy. So there is a squirrel alarm calling just on our right hand side, but there's a steenbok that looks very relaxed with life, is not looking too stressed out at this stage. A nice beautiful big male. You can see he's got nice big horns. Now look at the steenbok reacting to the squirrel alarm call. You see how it's staring to where that squirrel is alarming at the moment? So it's busy listening, trying to see, hang on a second, what's going on here? Is there maybe a predator that it needs to worry about? And then kind of turning back and facing in our direction. So it's kind of looking between the two. Now I'm trying to see, we're very close to where the African hawk eagles had a nest. So it could be alarm calling for the African hawk eagle, but I don't see the African hawk eagle sitting on any of the trees. So maybe, just maybe, there might be something else around here. Let's just have a slow little drive here. You never know what could be. There could be Tandi, there could be Kalamba, there could be Hosana, there could be anybody. Kuchava maybe even up this way. Possible. You see any birds of prey, David? No. Squirrels stop making a noise now, so I don't think it's too concerned with what's going on. So you can see the space that this alarm call was not as long as what we had with Tingana, so I think it was just something passing by. Janine, what am I most looking forward to seeing in the Congo? Ooh, everything, to be honest. It's going to be such a difference from here in terms of dry, low-felt winter to going up to the rainforest of the Congo, and it's, you know, it's a place where I've always wanted to go and spend a bit of time. And so everything from the gorillas to all the monkey species, the forest elephants, forest buffalo, some insane birds that are up in that area. There's a little black bee eater, which is a beautiful bird that I would like to see. All kinds of different cuckoo species. There's the great blue taraco, which will be really nice to see. All kinds of things. There's many birds. Fishing owls. There's two different species there, both the pels and I always forget the name. Vermeticulated is the other one that is also there. So everything, I mean, it's just in general, just being out in a completely different environment to what I've spent the last few months in, and so hopefully it will be a really successful trip. I'm sure it will be. The people that I'm going with are all very, very nice people and super interested in what's going on. Right, we're going to head off now towards where James and Herbie is to go and try and kind of get them back to camp, because they've been walking and they're very far from camp, so we're going to try and give them a little lift. And it is that time of the day where we need to go and pick them up, because it is breakfast time, and so James and Herbie and Senzo have definitely earned their breakfast this morning, so we are going to head off towards them to go and try and get them. But it's been hopefully a successful morning. It was just James and myself, but I hope that you had a good time with us. We certainly had a good time with all of you, and well, I hope that you will all have a fantastic few weeks while I'm away, and that you'll continue to see lots of amazing things that has been happening. So from James, myself, all the camera operators, Emma in final control, it's been an absolute pleasure this morning. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and we'll see you all in a few weeks, but the rest of the team will see you this afternoon.